Chapter 845. Surging power of everyone here. The one that was the greatest threat to Chief Elder was Wei Sheng and not the god-killing blood sword. The difference in cultivation meant that the great power of the god-killing blood sword could not be fully expressed. Even then only Wei Sheng could transform the great and savage power of the god-killing blood sword into powerful killing moves. The god-killing blood sword also recognized this. While it was unwilling, the circumstances of the battle meant that it had to relinquish control to Wei Sheng. Wei Sheng's skill in the sword was completely brought out. Having just comprehended how to compress sword essence, he repeatedly released these extremely compressed sword essences. Chief Elder was very wary of them. Unprecedented power flooded into Wei Sheng's body from the god-killing blood sword, and rampaged through his body. Buoyed by this surging power, he stood at an unprecedented level. His vision immediately broadened. Countless ideas of the sword path erupted out of his mind. The sword essence in his hand constantly changed, and the sword essence became even harder to predict. An explosion due to his accumulated knowledge. His sword cultivation route had never been smooth. He had experienced numerous hardships, countless obstacles, and always persisted. No one is like him. Even with such strength, he still persisted daily in the basic sword training. After continuing for so many years, his fundamentals were astoundingly rooted, and he had accumulated great knowledge and skill. This was truly an explosion. Wei Sheng's understanding of void sword essence broke through a bottleneck and reached an unprecedented height. The pressure on Chief Elder suddenly increased. The void presence in Wei Sheng's sword essence became fainter and fainter. The sword energy slimmer, and was now as thin as a strand of hair. Chief Elder didn't dare to let these hair-thin sword energies near him. Even he would be cut apart by these sword energies if they touched him. Each slender sword energy was a tiny crack of the endless void. Damn it. Chief Elder felt even more frantic. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a wisp of fire, and his heart jumped. For Zuo, the Ascension methodology had always been very cryptic. It was an inheritance from an ancient time, after all. The speech and writing from that time had been completely different from now. Many times, Zuo needed to focus to study and understand. His cultivation path could not be said to be difficult, but Zuo always felt that there was a barrier, and he could not easily proceed. Until now, there was peerless power surging in his body. All of the power in the Sun Crystal Seed was unleashed inside his body. Even in the history of the Sun Tribe, no one had dared to do a similar thing. There had never been such great power. All the places that had been difficult in the past disappeared completely now. The entire Shin methodology flowed through his mind, and matched him unusually well as though it had been activated now after hiding in his body all this time. The Sun Shin methodology was not as complex as Zuo originally imagined. When he understood and looked back, he found that the Sun Shin methodology was actually very simple. The ancient warriors emphasized presence as the most important during battle. They were the ultimate power for their tribe. When tribes fought, they were usually fighting at the front lines just like the MO of the present. This was why they admired simplicity the most. Things that were too complex might be beautiful and exquisite, but they definitely were of little help for presence. The Sun Shin methodology was modeled after the sun, and the Sun Crystal Seed was a sun. Its power was of the same source as the Sun Shin power, and the laws involved were the same. While he could not control everything in the world like Chief Elder, but there was no obstacle any longer to understand many things that had been hard to understand. It could be said that only now did he completely absorb the entire Sun Shin methodology, how to channel Shin power, and much more. Those furious raging power became Zuo's best teachers and taught him how to produce and channel the power of the sun. The great problems that countless Sun Tribe warriors had spent their minds and energy on studying were clearly being displayed inside Zuo's body. Zuo even found several places where the Sun Shin methodology was wrong. There never been anyone like him who was able to observe how the burning flows inside the sun moved in such detail. The burning flows inside the Sun Crystal Seed had manifested after being accumulated through millions of years. It was much more refined compared to Zuo's Sun Shin power. It was a pity. He didn't have much time left. If he could survive, maybe he could push the Sun Shin methodology to a higher level. At such a time, he was able to have such absurd thoughts in his mind. Zuo grinned in self-mockery. In his field of view, Chief Elder's unpredictable figure grew closer. Zuo's pupils were like two balls of burning flame. Since this was the case, then let the Sunshin methodology shine its brightest light in his hands. Flames continued to flow and gather at his right fist. At this time, the Mo matrix seal on his right hand was destroyed by the burning flows of the sun crystal seed. The skin of his right fist was almost transparent. The deep red burning flows moved underneath slowly like blood. As the flames continued to gather, the burning sun flows in his right fist started to become more active. Chief Elder's figure continued to grow closer. The fire burning in Zuo's chest became even stronger. As though they felt his fighting spirit, the burning flows inside his body circulated faster. The strong burning brought along great pain and caused Zuo's face to twist. At this time he saw Chief Elder suddenly jump, and the Shin glyph under his feet lit up at the same time. You want to run? Zuo's face was unspeakably vicious. The flames on his right fist were compressed to the limit, burning a blinding white. The burning flows in his right fist became more active than they ever had been. His right fist trembled uncontrollably as a feeling of numbness spread. A blurry figure flashed nearby. Idiot! Zuo, who was almost pushed to the point of crumbling by the burning flows, had a peerlessly savage expression on his twisted face. Kill! A silent howl exploded in his mind. Using all of his power, he threw his right fist in the direction of Chief Elder. Boom! The surging Sunshin flames erupted from Zuo's right fist without any warning. The flames were so strong they exploded like a volcano. The area they covered was unexpectedly large. Chief Elder, who had not stabilized himself, was consumed by the Sunshin fire. When an enormous pillar of Shin fire 5 li in diameter appeared in the sky, the entire sky was illuminated. The thick clouds in the sky boiled and a large portion disappeared. Within the pillar of fire, countless three-legged golden crows that manifested from Shin power flapped their wings. Golden arcs of flame formed and extinguished in the pillar of fire. Everyone was stunned by the astounding scene. In front of the enormous pillar of flame, Zuo seemed so minuscule. Huh? Zuo's panting was interspersed with broken laughter as he floated in the air. His right fist was burnt black, his right arm having completely lost feeling. His terrifying pillar of fire was not formed from his Shin power, but by igniting the burning sun flows inside his fist. He had just used an extremely tiny amount of the burning sun flows, but he had paid a great price. His Shin power would not be able to injure the Chief Elder, but the burning sun flows could. He didn't have much Shin power, but he had a great amount of burning sun flows in his body. There was a great difference in their cultivation, but so what? Power could not fill the gap in cultivation, but he had enough power to break the gap. Come, old man. Zuo's eyes were red. He could not feel if it was his spirit that was burning or if his body was actually burning. That was not important now. Chief Elder's figure appeared in view. He was extremely disheveled, all of his hair burned away. He hadn't expected that Zuo's punch had such great range. When he had been consumed by the pillar of fire, he used Shin glyphs to protect himself. Yet the pillar of fire formed by igniting the burning sun flows was too great. What depressed him even more was that there had been a bunch of three-legged golden crows inside the pillar of fire formed from Zuo's Shin power. These three-legged golden crows furiously charged at him, so that he could not use any methods except Shin glyphs to resist the Sunshin fire. That was Sunshin fire. The life of a sun could be counted in the billions of years. Even an infant sun had lived through millions of years. The power of the Sunshin fire it created could be imagined. The surging Sunshin fire had caught the Chief Elder off guard, and he had been injured. What had injured the Chief Elder was not the Sunshin fire's power, but its terrifying volume. Chief Elder seemed to be hit by a raging river. He was disheveled because he had been caught off guard. If he was prepared, he would definitely be able to stop the same move. In his eyes, Zuo could not express its true power. The move appeared astounding, but its true power was not as great as imagined. However, being pushed to such a step by a person not in God level, Chief Elder's gaze when he looked at Zuo suddenly became dark and murderous. He glanced at the endless void crack that had been attacked by Wei Sheng, but hadn't disappeared. This crack of the endless void that he could pass through was surrounded by tiny cracks of void. These tiny cracks were Wei Sheng's void sword essence. These void sword energies sealed the crack. Damn it! Chief Elder's gaze landed back on Zuo. This guy's body was strange. Chief Elder managed to calm his mind. He knew that if he could not take care of these people, he would not have a chance to break the seal and flee into the endless void. If he received even the slightest disruption when he went into the endless void, even a god level would die. When he made the decision, Chief Elder calmed down. The central plains were rapidly collapsing, but there wasn't any panic on his face. There was enough time. Suddenly, the Shun glyph that had wrapped around a Gue gave off purple flames. The Shun glyph was burned away like dry grass and revealed a Gui's body. Almost at the same time, a figure suddenly burrowed out of the ground and shot into the sky. It was Zhong Ru, who had been dragged underground by the lava. This group was really troublesome. Chief Elder sighed in astonishment. Just now, Zuo and Wei Sheng had pressed him hard enough that he had not attention to pay to these two people. This allowed the two to break free of their restraints. The youths all had different powers, but they had some similar traits such as being hardy. Chief Elder's gaze became calm and serene again. Since this was the case, then head take care of them together. I'll let you see what the uncrossable chasm between a true god level and you is. Chief Elder slowly closed his eyes and spread his arms. Chapter 846. Glyphication glyph appeared beside the Chief Elder. Then another one, a third, a fourth. All kinds of glyphs grew in the air and spread outwards. In a few moments, there were countless glyphs floating in the end, packed in and endless. Some were Shun glyphs, some were seal scripts. They were of different colors and flashed with different lights. Chief Elder's expression was solemn. His spread arms seemed to be embracing the world. This was like a galaxy, all kinds of stars vast and endless. The Shun glyphs were like those enormous and bright stars, the seal scripts like those small and dim stars. Each glyph spun slowly and released a force field that belonged to themselves. A sea of glyphs. A hint of shock flashed through Zuo's eyes, but then he recovered. He had to admit that in the field of Shun glyphs and seal scripts, Chief Elder was the best at present. Even around him, there were several glyphs that he did not recognize. This glyph sea contained billions of glyphs. Was this god level? A daze entered Zuo's eyes. Seal scripts and Shun glyphs. This was also the field he was skilled in, but he was lacking in comparison to Chief Elder. This was the world of Shun glyphs. A Shun glyph grandmaster. Yet there was no time for Zuo to sigh in astonishment. He quickly found the danger of this world of Shun glyphs. Nearby, a Shun glyph suddenly lit up. 7 seal scripts were attracted to it and released light at the same time. Suddenly, an arrow of ice shot out of a light blue seal script. Zuo did not change expression. When the ice arrow reached him, it was turned to steam by the sunshine fire that surrounded Zuo. Yet this ice arrow seemed to awaken the other seal scripts and Shun glyphs. Whoosh! Ice arrows, waves of wind, lightning, flowing fire. They shot at Zuo from all directions, hissing and cracking. Sparks flew around Zuo. The domineering and powerful sunshine fire dealt easily with these normal attacks. But Zuo did not have a happy expression. He actually felt the foreboding sense of unease. The entire glyph sea started to spun. All of the Shun glyphs and seal scripts seemed to be awakened. All of the seal scripts around Zuo started to attack. Each seal script had a different attack. The lights came in a storm, and were so rapid they almost obscured Zuo's vision. Zuo immediately felt a slight pressure. The power of the seal scripts was limited, and they could not break through Zuo's Shun fire. However, there were too many of them and too many different kinds of powers. The pressure when tens of thousands of completely different powers attacked together could be imagined. Whoosh! The flames around Zuo exploded. The burning sun flows inside his body seemed to be angered by the rain of attacks. The sunshine fire became even more ferocious. At this time, Zuo was a ball of fire. The lights released by the seal scripts were like moths flying towards a flame. Once they came close, they would turn into sparks and disappear. Zuo did not dare to relax. Right now, the seal scripts were the ones attacking, and the Shun glyphs had not moved. Shun glyphs were of a higher level than seal scripts and more powerful. As expected by Zuo, a Shun glyph suddenly lit up with blue light. A blue figure like that of a female slowly rose from the Shen glyph. The blue female seemed like a ball of flowing water. She held a deep blue bottle in her hand. When it appeared, Zuemo had a strong feeling of danger. She held the blue bottle high up in her hand. The mouth of the bottle was turned to face Zuemo. Splash. A flow of water poured out of the bottle and landed by her feet, turning into a raging river that swept towards Zuemo. The roar of the river covered all other sounds. Zuemo stared closely at the river in front of him. A strong feeling of danger rose. Using water to subdue fire? Zuemo was not surprised. Water subduing fire was a basic law. The Sun Shen fire was domineering, but it was not invincible. If there was Shen fire, there would be Shen water. With a Shen fire like the Sun Shen fire that was the most domineering and masculine, there was naturally the darkest and gentlest Shen water. Shen water. The river in front of him was made completely of Shen water. Zuemo was shocked. He had been shocked when Chief Elder had managed to summon the void skyly fire. He hadn't thought the other was able to summon Shen water with a wave of his hand. His guess was right. Chief Elder had summoned a Shen water. The void spring Shen water which came from the endless void. There were many void springs in the endless void, and the void spring Shen water came from that. Chief Elder desperately wanted to end the battle. He used the power of the Shen glyphs to find a void spring and summoned the void spring Shen water. Was this god level? The burning sun flows seemed to detect the danger the river posed. They became more active. The burning sun flow that speed up in its circulation set off golden arcs of flame. The golden arcs of flame appeared for only short moments, flashing and then disappearing. But the arcs formed and extinguished each other. With the destruction of each arc, there would be a gold spark that landed in Zuemo's body. However, Zuemo had no time to study what these golden sparks were. As the burning flow became active again, Zuemo seemed to feel as though his mind fell back into a great sea of fire. His consciousness started to blur again. However, having gained some experience, Zuemo took a deep breath. He faced the charging Shen water and threw a punch just like previously. Without needing his consciousness effort, a small burning flow started to burn. Boom! A terrifying pillar of fire erupted out of Zuemo's burnt right hand. The pillar of fire and the flow of water collide heavily in the air. The moment that the Shen water and Shen fire came into contact, light appeared. Zuemo's vision was blinded and he could not see a thing. Boom boom boom. The enormous sounds of the explosion deafened Zuemo's ears. A faint rings of light quickly spread from where the two had collided. Everywhere the circle of light passed, the seal scripts immediately shattered. Zuemo was swept by the ring of light. It was like being hammered. The flames around him suddenly lit up. Taking advantage of the moment of clarity, Zuemo gritted his teeth and threw another punch. Boom! Another pillar of fire. The Shen fire immediately gained the upper hand. The void spring Shen water continued to retreat as the Shen fire moved forward. The line of fire was pressing close to the feet of the woman holding the bottle. The void spring Shen water was a level below the Sun Shen fire. The void spring had not been large and there wasn't much Shen water inside. Zuemo had a complete sun crystal seed that contained a great deal more Shen fire. At this time nearby, another Shen glyph suddenly lit up. This was a white Shen glyph. The light it gave off was also white. When the Shen glyph lit up, it immediately attracted the surrounding seal scripts to it. In a blink, it became several times bigger. Roar! A white dragon of ice flew out of the Shen glyph, stretched its body and leapt at the Shen fire. When the ice dragon appeared, the temperature of the surrounding air dropped dramatically. It was the first time Zuemo saw such a condensed and detailed dragon. This snowy white dragon had an elegant body, its scales like crystal that reflected the light beautifully. Ice Shen glyph. The cold air spun as the ice dragon coiled and silently spread to every corner. The presence of the Sun Shen fire suddenly stilled. The void spring Shen water took the chance to push the Shen fire back in Zuemo's direction. The icy cold energy caused Zuemo's mind to clear up greatly. Such powerful Shen glyph. Zuemo had never seen such a strong cold energy. If he didn't have the burning heat of the sun inside him, he definitely would not last long with just his own Shen power. But in the next moment, Zuemo's expression changed slightly. The cold energy did not cause the burning flow in his body to retreat. It actually enraged the burning flows. They became more active. Hiss hiss hiss. The golden arcs of flame became more frequent, and more golden sparks fell in Zuomo's body. Zuomo managed to detect the pattern. If the burning flow became active, his consciousness would be pulled into the sea of fire and start to blur. If this occurred, the best way was to channel the burning flow out. The amount of burning sun flow they had used was a drop in a sea. The amount of Senshin fire contained in one drop of the burning sun flow was astounding. Without a word, Zuomo gritted his teeth. Another punch. A blinding pillar of light headed for the ice dragon. The ice dragon was unusually alert. Its body shifted and it easily avoided Zuomo's attack. It roamed around Zuomo. With every shift of its body, it would cause a ripple of cold energy. As the ripples of energy came, the temperature continued to fall. Bone-chilling coldness caused the Senshin fire to quickly wither. Each complete Shin glyph had great abilities. Chief Elder's skill in Shin glyphs was peerless. After stepping into God level, he managed to complete many of his originally incomplete Shin glyphs. The content that he had found cryptic and hard to understand before were now restored with just a thought. This Ice Breath Shin Dragon glyph was one of those. He had just obtained a small part of it and used it to study. After entering God level, the mysteries of this Shin glyph was completely exposed to him. From that small part, he was able to reconstruct an entire Shin glyph. If he could harvest God-level cold energy and merge it into the Shin glyph to summon the true Ice Breath Shin Dragon, the power would be much greater than the dragon now. When the waves of cold energy touched the flames around Zuomo, they snapped and popped, creating sparks. It appeared as though fireworks were being set off around Zuomo, the sparks never ceasing. Seeing the pillar of fire was not effective against the ice dragon, Zuomo decided to attack the Shin water first. Boom boom boom. After several pillars of fire hit the Shin water, the Shin water was unable to withstand it and retreated. The ice dragon seemed to understand. It suddenly appeared next to Zuomo and opened its mouth to blow a cold breath on Zuomo. This cold breath was much stronger than the cold energy previously released. Covered in the flames, Zuomo shook from the cold. This cold energy seemed to be able to pass through the Senshin fire and hit his body. The Shin fire immediately weakened. A dense layer of frost appeared on Zuomo's body. The ice frost was eerie. It did not melt within the flames. So cold. Zuomo's brain almost froze. A strange and peerless cold continued to spread through his body. The Senshin fire seemed to be ineffective against the coldness. Boom boom boom. The burning sun flow became enraged. They moved at an unprecedented speed, the arcs of flame almost turning Zuomo's body into gold. Yet the cold energy was unusually hard. No matter how the Senshin fire burned, it did not change at all. Zuomo was trapped between ice and fire. The surface of his body was bone-chillingly cold, the inside of his body burning like lava. The ice dragon took the chance to blow out more cold breath. With every blow, it would wither slightly and become smaller. After 12 breaths, the body of the ice dragon had halved. A thick layer of ice covered Zuomo and his figure could not be seen. There was only a large piece of ice. Zuomo was completely sealed by ice. The ice dragon showed a relieved expression. Its ice breath was peerless in its cold. 12 of its breaths could seal anything. Even after 10,000 years, it would not melt. Sleep forever in this piece of sighing ice. The ice dragon was about to turn and leave. Crack. The ice layer shattered. A hand reached out of the thick ice layer without warning and grabbed the ice dragon. Chapter 847. Each person's intentions. The hand breaking through the ice grabbed the ice dragon. The red burning sun flows hissed when they came into contact with the ice dragon. A ball of mist rose. The clear scales started to melt rapidly. The ice dragon struggled fiercely in Zuomo's hand. Yet Zuomo's fingers were a steel trap and did not budge at all. The ice dragon twisted furiously as it continued to spit out ice breaths at Zuomo. The ice continued to grow thicker, but no matter how it struggled, it was unable to break free of his grip. The Senshin fire in Zuomo's hand became even hotter and more wild. The golden Senshin fire covered the ice dragon. The ice dragon melted at a visible rate. With a wail, It turned into a ball of mist and disappeared into the air. The ice breath Shin dragon glyph turned into a handful of fragments and also dissipated. A pillar of fire flew out of Zhuomo's hand towards the Shin water glyph. The figure standing on top of the Shin water glyph had been fighting with the Sun Shin fire. She had not expected the situation to change abruptly. The pillar of fire brutally crashed onto her body. With a great explosion, the Shin glyph shattered. The surrounding seal scripts seemed to be swept by a wave of air, clearing off a large area. The pressure on Zhuomo lessened. The Shin fire on his body grew. The ice turned into mist, sizzling and turning into vapor. The Shin ice was unique and should have been the one kind of Shin ice that could stop the great majority of Shin fires. However, the ice dragon and the Sun Shin fire were not on the same level after all. The burning sun flows became even more active in Zhuomo's body and started to rampage again. The Shin ice could not last one blow in front of the rampaging Sun Shin fire. But Zhuomo had pretended to be trapped by the ice to lure the ice dragon closer to deliver a killing blow. That ice dragon was truly too intelligent. When Zhuomo's consciousness had been floating in the sea of flame, he thought of this idea. After defeating 2 Shin glyphs, the burning sun flow seemed to be in an excited state, as though it had defeated a great enemy. Consequently, Zhuomo's consciousness was pulled into the sea of flame again. Damn it. The extreme temperature caused Zhuomo's consciousness to blur again. The sea of glyphs turned and several Shin glyphs appeared. It was easy to find remains of Shin glyphs on the market. Many people would sell them. The price was high for the average person, but they really were not too expensive to a big sect like Tianhuan. If Chief Elder wasn't peerless in his study of Shin glyphs, the remnants of Shin glyphs would have only be collected and kept stored in a corner of Tianhuan. But at this time, these collected Shin glyphs all showed their power. The Sun Crystal Seed was not a common object. Even in the vast, desolate, and empty endless void that was also in its own way rich in all kinds of things, the sun was forever one of the conquerors. It had a long lifespan, unrivaled light and heat. Accumulated and purified over millions of years, the power inside it was astounding, abundant and pure. When a few more Shin glyphs flew close, the burning sun flows in Zhuomo's body immediately reacted. With Zhuomo as the center, the wave of fire spread in all directions. Boom! The burning and bright golden wave of flame caused all the seal scripts it passed through to burn to dust or light aflame. The Shin glyphs that had all caught fire released light to fight against the Sun Shin fire. The domineering and bright Sun Shin fire was full of destructive power. Chief Elder finally was sure what was inside Zhuomo's body. A Sun Crystal Seed. It definitely was the Sun Crystal Seed. The legendary relic of the Sun tribe. His eyes were wide as he looked at Zhuomo like he saw a ghost. Sun Crystal Seed. The relic of the Sun tribe that had dominated the ancient era. Even in the ancient era, it was one of the world's greatest treasures. The legends said that the Sun Crystal Seed was made from a sealed sun. Was it really a sun? Chief Elder felt a chill. He should have thought of this a long time ago. Such endless Sun Shin fire. Except for that legendary Sun Crystal Seed, what other thing had such presence? Looking at Zhuomo, who seemed to be made of fire, Chief Elder had an even stronger feeling of danger. When his gaze landed on the sun glyph that appeared on Zhuomo's body, he sighed slightly. The sun glyph on Zhuomo's body was not complete, meaning he could not express all the power of the Sun Crystal Seed. There was still a chance. The Sun Crystal Seed was powerful, but it was inanimate and it did have weaknesses. It was a pity that his Shin glyphs were all partially restored from remnants that he found in the Xiuzha world. These Shin glyphs were not the top tier. Maybe after this battle, he would go into the endless void to find those even more powerful Shin glyphs. But this was enough to deal with these people. Chief Elder was full of confidence. The blood sword trembled in Wei Sheng's hand. Hiss hiss hiss, several sword energies flashed and disappeared. Several hair-thin black energies appeared on the Shin glyph in front of him. The Shin glyph lit up with blinding light. Snap! The Shin glyph that just lit up shattered like fireworks. Wei Sheng did not pause. He flashed and disappeared like a bloody shadow. He was extremely fast, the sword in his hand moving casually. His sword essence surged, and then an area of several dozen zhang would be enclosed within, and the seal scripts inside would shatter. The god-killing blood sword gave a sharp wail. It was extremely excited. How many years had it been since it had fought such an enjoyable battle? It smelt the scent of blood, the scent of a god level. Suddenly, a strange howl came from nearby. The other came quickly. Before the howl ended, a blurry shadow seemed to appear in front of Wei Sheng out of thin air. Wei Sheng's expression was calm. The blood sword in his hand shook and stabbed. The shadow swung and then disappeared. So fast. Wei Sheng's brow furrowed slightly, his body turning and his right leg following along to take half a step forward. The blood sword swung at the place he had just been. A burning light formed at the tip of his sword. Ding! A clear sound like metal grinding against metal caused Wei Sheng's ears to tingle. That shadow also paused. Wei Sheng finally saw what this was. It was an ape-like creature half a man's height. Its entire body was covered in a layer of black smoke, its limbs extremely long. At its fingertips were two bloody curved bone daggers that looked like sickles. Little double sickle ghost. The little double sickle ghost were hunters that lived in the endless void. They were wary and vicious and easily moved through the endless void. Wei Sheng did not hesitate. The sword essence shot towards the other. Yet what occurred astounded him. The little double sickle ghost wailed and sucked that hair-thin void sword essence that could cut everything into its stomach. What Wei Sheng did not know was that the little double sickle ghost was born knowing how to use the endless void. Using void cracks to cut, slice, and counter it was something it was familiar with. Wei Sheng's expression did not change as sword essence erupted. The little double sickle ghost had an expression of mockery. It opened its mouth and sucked. The sword essence was sucked into its mouth. Wei Sheng's expression was calm as he shook the blood sword. Numerous sword essences sprouted out. The mockery on the face of the little double sickle ghost grew even greater. Just like previously, it opened its mouth and the sword essences flew towards its mouth. Dealing with void cracks was as simple as eating. Then its expression froze on its face. A dot of light lit up in its stomach. Suddenly, a rice-sized dot of light exploded in its stomach. The peerlessly sharp sword essence exploded. The stomach of the little double sickle ghost was cut up. The ghost wailed before it turned into mist and dissipated in the air. Wei Sheng had detected its weakness after observing him a long time ago. When he found the little double sickle ghost could consume cracks of the endless void, he first used the void sword essence to lure it into consuming more, and then mixed in a compressed sword essence among the flood of void sword essences. The little double sickle ghost immediately fell for it. Wei Sheng didn't look at the little double sickle ghost's fading body. His figure flashed like lightning as he traveled through the seal scripts and Shen glyphs in search of the chief elder. He knew that they would win only if they found and defeated the chief elder. Otherwise, the endless glyphs could exhaust them and lead to their deaths. If Chief Elder dragged it on until the central plains collapsed, everyone would die together. That was also a solution. But Wei Sheng still had a thread of hope. If they could kill Chief Elder soon enough, maybe they could fight for a chance for Shidi to escape. Unlike Zhua Mo who was fighting in the Sea of Flames, everyone else was clear-minded. Mo Cloud Sea had a unique way to communicate between them. At this time, everyone was stronger than usual. Even in the Sea of Glyphs, Wei Sheng was still able to communicate his thoughts to everyone else. Other than Ague, everyone else immediately responded. Wei Sheng had no attention to spare as he charged into the center of the Glyph Sea. He was not skilled in forming plans. He was only skilled in one thing, fighting. Wei Sheng passed through the glyphs like lightning. After defeating a few dozen Shen glyphs that blocked his path, Wei Sheng finally saw Chief Elder. At the same time, three figures entered his view. Zhongru, Xinglian Air, and Wu Li. He saw a flash of purple light out of the corner of his eyes. Ague! Everyone had arrived. Chief Elder looked calmly at the 5 people that had charged over. Compared to just now, the 5 had even stronger presences. Chief Elder's mouth couldn't help but curve. He could feel that other than Wei Sheng, everyone else had greatly expended their power. Burning Shen power could increase their strength, but it would wring out every thread of potential. Those that burned Shen power would feel that they were more powerful than they ever had been. This feeling of power would numb them so that they would not be sparing with their Shen power. Also, burning Shen power was for when their lives were on the line, who would hold back. Of the 5, 3 were at the end of their ropes. Wei Sheng still had most of his abilities, and Ague the majority of her power. The Shun glyphs in the Glyph Sea were made from the remnants of Shun glyphs he collected. The great majority were not strong. However, even the weakest Shun glyph was still a Shun glyph. They definitely had expended a great portion of Shun power to reach him. There were 6 Shun glyphs floating around him. These 6 Shun glyphs were the strongest of the Shun glyphs he had collected, and were his ultimate move. Wei Sheng and the others did not know that Chief Elder had been preparing these 6 Shun glyphs for escaping the Jie's collapse. The 6 Shun glyphs would protect the Chief Elder when the central plains crumbled. While he could escape with his life, it was not possible to travel through the completely undamaged. He would likely have to recover for 10 years. So until he had to, Chief Elder did not want to use these glyphs. Wei Sheng and the others' intentions of finishing the battle quickly was also what he wanted. Confident that the 5 people could not defeat him, Chief Elder raised his head and glanced at the ball of fire in the distant part of the Glyph Sea. If there were any uncertain factors, only that person. Chapter 848. Pu and Wei Sheng was like an unsheathed sword. In Mo Cloud Sea, if people were said to be both in fear and awe of Lil Miss, then everyone was full of the utmost respect for Teacher Wei. Teacher Wei never got angry, he would only smile gently, and then patiently demonstrate again and again to point out the differences. Wei Sheng had an indescribable presence. People would unconsciously believe every word he said. No one would suspect he would not be able to do something. Almost no one had seen Teacher Wei angry. Wei Sheng was as vast and heavy as a mountain. He was the idol of all the sword xiao in Mo Cloud Sea. When Teacher Wei made a decision, he would give up all restraint. At this time, his edges were all displayed. He was like a sword that could not be stopped. People would not doubt that he could cut open the sky. The 6 Shun glyphs revolved around Chief Elder, and Wei Sheng immediately knew the other's intentions. His heart was calm, even while the furious power of the blood sword in his hand battered at his mind. The god-killing blood sword was like a beast that just tasted blood. It became frantic and tried to break free of all restraints. Yet Wei Sheng's mind did not have any weakness. The blood sword-shaped pupils calmly gazed at Chief Elder. Wei Sheng's calm caused Chief Elder to feel a threat of trepidation. Wei Sheng did not recognize the 6 Shun glyphs, but he knew that something that Chief Elder who had summoned such a vast sea of glyphs was keeping back as a killing move. It definitely was not normal. Without any hesitation, he swung his sword, releasing sword essence like usual. The void sword essence was like hair blown into disarray by the wind, floating towards Chief Elder. Suddenly, a black Shun glyph among the 6 lit up. Then a black whirlpool appeared in the center of the Shun glyph. The void sword essence was sucked into the black whirlpool. That familiar feeling. Wei Sheng narrowed his eyes. The center of the whirlpool was the endless void. No wonder he felt it was so familiar. Wei Sheng was right. Chief Elder's Shun glyph was called the Endless Whirlpool. Its greatest ability was to consume everything. While he knew the ability of the whirlpool, Wei Sheng did not have a good solution. His void sword essence was powerful, but the two were from the same source. He could not defeat the whirlpool. Also, the smaller gray spinning whirlpools in the larger whirlpool were clearly not so simple. Wei Sheng was not shocked. He raised the blood sword in his hand. His face suddenly turned pale. Threads of blood appeared on the sword. The sword moved as though it was alive. An indescribable pressure immediately pressed on the battlefield. Wei Sheng did not seem to see. His sword flickered and a drop of blood was thrown off the tip of the sword. It slowly flew towards the whirlpool. The blood bead contained an indescribable pressure. The speed of the black whirlpool was affected and its revolutions slowed. Chief Elder's expression became grave as he stared closely at the bat of blood. The blood bead flew to the center of the whirlpool and suddenly exploded. A spray of bloody mist landed on the whirlpool. The whirlpool was dyed with an imperceptible tinge of blood. The thin blood color did not seem to affect the whirlpool, but Wei Sheng perceptively felt that the power of the whirlpool was slightly weaker than before. But before Wei Sheng could celebrate, the color was quickly dragged into the gray spinning scripts. The whirlpool recovered. Those gray whirlpools were as strange as expected. Seeing this, a tinge of an imperceptible smile appeared on Chief Elder's mouth. He turned his gaze to another direction. The chains around Ague became even more tangible and tighter. They were tightly embedded into the bone armor. The purple flames burned. Her face was pale, and her eyes flashed with bright purple flame. The undying ghost had slightly changed. The chains that had bit into the bone armor started to gradually merge into one with the bone armor. The bone armor that looked like gray crystal had a few marks of crisscrossing flames. Agui's purple flames on the armor gradually receded, but the bone dagger in Agui's hands were still covered in a layer of purple. Agui's body suddenly disappeared. Almost at the same time, a blue shin glyph lit up. A ray of blue light came from the shin glyph and covered Agui. Hiss! A thread of blue smoke came out of Agui's undying ghost. A faint layer of gray mist floated out of the surface of the undying ghost. This seemingly thin layer actually stopped the blue light. Chief Edler was astounded. Such thick and pure energy. It was the first time he closely examined Agui's bone armor. When he looked, he jumped in fright. Shin device raiment. It was a Shin device raiment. The bone armor seemed to have been soaked in energy for a long time to the point it didn't have any impurity. It seemed as clear as gray crystal. However, how many years would it take to gain such purity and clarity? Forgers always pursued the clearest and purest materials. The purer the material, the higher the grade it was. This bone armor was so high in grade, so pure, that Chief Elder had never seen something like it before. Even at a level like Chief Elder, he couldn't help but feel a hint of greed at seeing such quality. But then he smiled self-mockingly. It was not good to divide one's attention when fighting. He refocused and urged the blue shin glyph further. The blue ray of light started to spin slowly. As the ray of blue light spun, the power contained in the ray of light increased greatly. Agui's charge slowed to a halt. The blue ray of light seemed to contain a great force. The faint layer of gray mist on her armor quickly disappeared. Agui suddenly released the two bone daggers in her hands. Chief Elder now found that there was an exquisite chain connecting the hilts of the two daggers. The bone daggers with their purple flames were like two bolts of lightning. They dragged the long chain as they flew towards the Shin glyph, releasing the blue ray of light. Clink clink. The bone daggers passed through the ray of light and hit the Shin glyph. The chain was pulled straight, and they looked like two long spears. Whoosh! Two waves of purple flame quickly reached towards the Shin glyph from Agui's hands along the chain. At the same time, pure energy that was wrapped around the chains caused the flames to erupt in power. The two bone daggers suddenly turned into two claws that grabbed onto the Shin glyph. The ray of blue light seemed to be stimulated. It became extremely bright, and the hissing from Agui's armor was much stronger. The layer of gray mist on top of the bone armor was quickly disappearing. Chief Elder's gaze focused. He detected danger from Agui's move. However, this grinding blue light was one of the strongest Shin glyphs he had. This blue ray of light did not look like much, but anything it shone on would be ground into dust by the power it contained. The grinding blue light was not complete when he obtained it, but he saw its strength. Due to this, he had spent a great deal of energy on it. After reaching God level, the increase in his cultivation allowed him to repair the grinding blue light immediately. However, the Shin glyph of the grinding blue light was extremely complex. He still needed time to complete it. But even so, the present grinding blue light's power could not be underestimated. The grinding blue light was also unique in that the longer one resisted, the stronger the blue light became. As expected, the grinding blue light became even brighter. The gray mist on Agui became an extremely faint layer. Agui's figure started to tremble, like the chains in the blue light. Because of the great force, they were trembling. However, Agui's figure did not waver. The chain in her hands grew longer. The two chains were like two nimble snakes that started to climb and coil around the Shin glyph. They passed through the crevices between the Shin glyph. The purple flame that was usually unstoppable seemed to have lost its power, and couldn't do anything against the Shin glyph. Agui seemed to be unaffected by this. She only had the chain climb and warp around the Shin glyph. Chief Elder looked in interest at Agui's actions. He had a very limited understanding of the undying Shin punishment. This punishment that was called the cruelest of the ancient era had only left behind a few sparse lines. The records he had collected about this was pitifully few. Maybe he could take this chance to observe the undying Shin punishment. He might gain something. The undying Shin punishment and the Shin device raiment interested him. Chief Elder did not think about the other 3 people. The 3 had used up too much of their Shin power just now. He only needed to use 1 Shin glyph to restrain them. Up until now his plan was successful. As he observed Ague, he recalculated the time. The entire battle was in his control. Quickly, a smile appeared on his lips. No matter how he calculated, he had enough time. This eased his worries. At this time, he seemed to feel something. He raised his head, his expression shocked. He turned his face to look in another direction. In a far part of the glyph sea, in the direction of the ball of fire, a presence was furiously growing. The fire burned fiercely. The arcs of flame formed sparks of gold that permeated Zuomo's body. In a daze, Zuomo did not notice that the Sun Shin glyph in his body was slowly growing and forming. If Zuomo was clear-minded, he would be shocked to find the growth of the Shin glyph was not along his skin, but like a tree root that grew out many strands of gold and wrapped around Zuomo's entire body. As the Sun Shin glyph grew, the burning flame seemed much dimmer. If one could see through Zuomo's body, they would see the root-like Sun Shin glyph was drawing from the red burning sun flows to feed Zuomo's body, like a tree taking water from ground. The Sun Shin glyph quickly became tinged with red, and became brighter. Soon, the root-like Sun Shin glyph became the same color as the burning sun flows. Zuomo's face showed an expression of pain. In Zuomo's sea of consciousness, Pu Yao floated in the air, the eerie black fire dancing in the air. Are you prepared? His voice was as sharp as a knife, so cold there was no emotion. Yes. A muffled voice came from the armor below. Wei was completely dressed, the armor covered in marks of age and battle. He held a sword and stood next to the black steel, his figure straight like a spear. Looking at the steel below, Pu Yao expressionlessly pulled aside the hair that covered his left eye. Chapter 849. Are you willing? A ball of black mist floated in Pu Yao's left eye. There seemed to be tens of thousands of ghosts giving ear-splitting wails within the mist. Yet both Pu Yao and Wei were unaffected by the wailing. The black mist flew and entered the steel. The steel trembled violently. Threads of black mist emerged from under the steel and wrapped around Pu Yao and Wei. The steel slowly rose and revealed an ancient altar. At this time, Wei, who was dressed in armor, raised the thick sword in his hand and swung down. Boom. Wei split the steel in two. A ball of black mist slowly rose out of the bisected steel. The roiling mist seemed to show indistinct faces. In this moment, a strange field of power spread. An ancient voice came out of the mist, as though it had existed forever, with indescribable age and power. To abide by my ceremony, to execute my desires, to swear my oath, will thou. Will thou. Will thou. The last 2 words were like thunder. Yet Pu Yao and Wei seemed to ignore the voice with practice. Wei lamented. I don't know when this boy will be able to get us out. I hadn't thought that a guy as emotionless as you will sacrifice yourself to save others. TSK never thought of it, never thought of it. Pu Yao said coldly. I have owed rent for too long, and still have to repay it. That's true, Wei nodded and said. This boy isn't in a good state this time. In any case, it is just death. I feel that it is better to die in there. Not so painful. I always feared pain. Don't waste words, work, Pu Yao said coldly. All right. Wei did not waste words and stood next to Pu Yao. The two stood gravely next to the ball of mist, the sound of will thou echoing in their eyes. The two exchanged a look and said at the same time. Willing. The sound of will thou suddenly stopped. 2 black lights suddenly flew out of the black mist and entered the body of the pair. Wei's damaged armor was suddenly restored. A set of armor appeared on Pu Yao's body. The armor on Pu Yao's body was slender and exquisite. Threads of flame appeared from the armor. There were many red triangle glyphs on the duo's armor. If it was someone knowledgeable about ancient ceremonies, they would recognize that these triangle glyphs appeared on sacrificial items. Pu Yao and Wei had made themselves into sacrifices. Great power filled their bodies. Of all the sacrificial ceremonies, the power obtained from the one that used the person as the sacrifice was the strongest. The two both wore gravestone armor. Because the two were just souls, and did not have a body, once they sacrificed themselves, they would be imprisoned in the gravestone and forever stay there. Unless someone of the greatest power could break through the gravestone to save them. Come. Wei shouted. He raised the large sword in his hand. Come. Pu Yao's cold voice was like a blade. A black line of fire extended from his hand. The black line of fire hit Wei's raised sword. The fire immediately adhered itself to the sword and in a flash, shrouded the sword. Endless flame came from Pu Yao's hand. When the last wisp of flame left Pu Yao's hand, Pu Yao stumbled before he steadied himself. The armor he wore was dim and covered in cracks. Pu Yao was fixed on Wei's sword. Wei's armor gave off great light, the light flowing towards the sword in his hand. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of cracking started from Wei's armor at his feet and spread upwards. Calf, knee, thigh, waist, until it reached his wrists that held the sword. The armor he wore was white and without any light. Wei gave a great bellow, swinging that great sword flowing with light and fire to shove it into the ground. Boom. Zuomo's sea of consciousness immediately split apart. The Sunshin glyph that had struggled to absorb the burning sun flow seemed to break free of its last restraints. It started to grow into Zuomo's head. The threads of Sunshin glyph were like roots in soil. They reached into Zuomo's head, and the swollen power caused them to rapidly change. A golden seedling rapidly grew at a visible rate at the spot where Zuomo's consciousness had been before. The infant seedling that was growing was a vent for the burning sun flow. The slows rushing into the root system. It caused the burning sun flows that rampaged through Zuomo's body to be sucked up by the Shin glyph that covered his body, and was transported into Zuomo's mind. A golden seedling quickly grew. Under the seedling, a lone gravestone stood silently. Zuomo felt the pressure around him quickly decrease. His mind immediately became clear. An unknown amount of time later, he opened his eyes. His body that had been about to erupt had finally calmed down. When Zuomo inspected his body, he was astounded. Almost half of the burning sun flows in his body had gone away. When Zuomo saw the golden tree sprout, he was dumbstruck. Sun tree, wasn't this the sun tree? What happened? Where was his sea of consciousness? Pu Yao and Wei? Zuomo quickly found the gravestone under the sun tree. Two figures appeared on the flat and glossy gravestone, one covered in flames, one dressed in armor. Zuomo was struck by lightning. Pu Yao and Wei. He was so familiar with those two people that even if they burnt into ash, he would recognize them. The two figures on the gravestone were not clear, but Zuomo recognized it was Pu Yao and Wei at a glance. In a blink, he understood what had happened. Tears uncontrollably streamed down. Yet when the tears left his eyes, they turned into steam. They only left behind marks on his face. Zuomo suddenly saw a small ball of fire under the sun tree. A hint of joy flashed through his eyes. He was familiar with this fire. Pu Yao's black fire. Pu Yao had left this. Was this? He suppressed the joy he felt and beckoned to the black fire. When the fire entered his body shook. After you become stronger, come save us. A few short words, but Zuomo was in ecstasy. Pu Yao was not dead. Wei was not dead. In this moment, hope filled his heart. He balled his fists. He swore, I will save you. Zuomo suddenly turned his head. Over there. He sprinted in the direction of the battle. The abundant burning sun flows in his body allowed the sun tree to furiously grow from a seedling into maturity, until its branches grew heavy with little tiny suns. It finally stopped absorbing the burning sun flows because it reached its limit. There was about half of the burning sun flows still in Zuomo's body. With the sun tree stopping its absorption, Zuomo's body increased in temperature again. The great pain once again came from his body. Zuomo did not lose clarity. He could withstand pain of this level. Even half of the burning sun flows was not something that Zuomo could endure. Zuomo felt as though his body would explode. But Zuomo still detected a difference. While the pain was still maddening and the feeling of being full was the same as before, Zuomo found that there was a portion of power under his control. This power came from the Shen glyph. Maybe, or more accurately, it came from the little suns on the sun tree. The sun tree was now in the position that had belonged to Zuomo's sea of consciousness. The rampaging burning sun flows had passed through the root-like Shin glyph to the sun Shin tree to those little suns. These little suns could release pure sun Shin power, and this power was like Zhuo had cultivated it himself, and could be used to his will. This portion of Shin power was not something that the burning sun flows repelled. They were from the same source and could coexist. The great pain caused Zhuo to focus even more. He knew what dangerous state he was in right now. Those that were mentally any weaker would probably still be struggling in the pain. But Zhuo did not give up. He searched hard among the pain for any chance. He knew that any chance he had was something that everyone was using their lives to trade for. Eldest Shixiang Ague Puyao Wei. He couldn't waste this, he did not qualify to give up. He could die, but he could not let everyone's sacrifices become worthless. He turned and sprinted towards where the battle was. Sprinting at top speed, Zhuo's fighting spirit was like the burning flames. His face was calm and determined, his eyes pressingly bright, his hands balled in fists. He moved forward. Zhuo's full speed was astounding, and it was faster than flying. A long tail of flames pulled behind his body. The seal scripts in the surroundings flew towards him. He did not stop. His fists covered in flames smashed everything that stopped him into pieces. A Shun glyph appeared in front of him. Sharp red light shot towards him. Zhuo did not stop. He crossed his arms in front of him and continued to charge forward. Pop pop pop. The red light rained on his body, and Zhuo's flames suddenly shot forward. The red light disappeared after being swept by the sun Shin fire. Almost in a flash, Zhuo appeared beside the Shin glyph and punched it. A circle of red light suddenly lit up on Zhuo's hand. Burning sun flow. This Shin glyph was not high grade to begin with. A tiny bit of burning sun flow was enough to destroy it. Whoosh, the Shin glyph turned into dust. Zhuo did not stop and continued to charge. Yet Zhuo's gaze landed on the red circle around his fist. This was the burning sun flow. In that punch, he had only channeled Shin power into his fist like usual. He hadn't expected a thread of the burning sun flow was mixed in the Shin power. Shin power could manipulate small amounts of the burning sun flow. The power of this punch was multiplied. Zhuo's eyes lit up. The burning sun flow was peerless in its dominance and unstoppable. Wasn't this the best weapon? The more Zhuo thought, the more excited he became. Every drop of the burning sun flow contained countless sun Shin fire. If Chief Elder touched even a bit, he would also be injured. At this time, another Shin glyph appeared in front of him. Zhuo punched just like before. A dragon of fire howled and charged towards the Shin glyph. The Shin glyph suddenly sprouted out countless lights that hit the fire dragon. Yet the golden dragon of fire did not collapse. It seemed to be unaffected and smashed on the Shin glyph. A red light in the dragon of fire imperceptibly lit up. Boom. The Shin glyph shattered immediately. Zhuo howled, the flames growing as he charged forward. He was like an unreasonable dragon of flame that smashed everything placed in front of him. Chapter 850. Nothing to do with rationality. The bright light that suddenly lit up the sky from the direction that wild howl came from. Chief Elder's pupils contracted. Zhuo. He could clearly feel that Zhuo's presence was continuing to rise. Almost at the same time, a dot of fire spread across his vision. Not good. Chief Elder was shocked. Before he could react, the dot of fire charged at him. Snap. Behind Zhuo's golden figure, all of the Shin glyphs and seal scripts shattered together and formed a straight path. Chief Elder's heart continued to sink. To him those Shin glyphs were not strong, but he was surprised that Zhuo was able to crush his way through them so easily. The golden flames were the same as before, but the youth that was within the golden flames had completely transformed. Chief Elder felt intimidated, but his expression was normal. The Shin glyph that revolved around him flew lightly towards Zhuo. He didn't have much confidence this Shin glyph could stop Zhuo. He found at this time that his situation had quickly devolved. He had thought that he would easily take care of Tseng Lianer, Zhongru, and Wuli, but they were unexpectedly hardy. The three of them had entangled onto three Shin glyphs, and this meant that he had nothing to defend himself with. Only now did Chief Elder find that these three individuals that he had dismissed were the most important. He couldn't help but feel a thread of regret. If he had used more power to kill these 3 earlier, he would have 3 Shin glyphs at his disposal right now. With 4 Shin glyphs, he didn't believe that Zuo would be able to break through his defenses so easily. Finish the battle quickly. Only then would he have the possibility of victory. Murderousness flashed through Chief Elder's eyes. Yet Chief Elder, who detected danger, did not think that the situation was beyond his control. Seeing the droplet of blood completely consumed by the whirlpool, Wuxia did not panic at all. His eyes became even brighter. He suddenly released the god-killing blood sword in his hand. Under the strong attractive force of the whirlpool, the god-killing blood sword flew towards the whirlpool. The god-killing blood sword flew to the center of the whirlpool. Just as the sword was about to be consumed by the whirlpool, thick fresh blood sprouted from the sword and quickly spread through the whirlpool. In a blink, the whirlpool became a bloody whirlpool. The sticky blood caused the speed of the whirlpool to slow down. The slower it was, the weaker its attractive force. Soon, the whirlpool became a ball of blood. Wuxia suddenly disappeared from his spot to appear in front of the god-killing blood sword. His hand touched the god-killing blood sword again. His eyes flashing, he shouted, "Break!" The whirlpool died with blood immediately fragmented. The Shun glyph shattered. Wuxia swayed. His face was bloodless. The Shun glyph was covered in chains. The chains from a Gui seemed to be endless. At this time, the grinding blue light was at an astounding strength. The gray mist would be used up almost when it appeared. Crack, crack, crack. A Gui's bone armor started to crack. A Gui was expressionless. Without realizing it, the purple flames on the tense chains had disappeared. A gray presence spread suddenly from a Gui's body, and quickly spread along the chains to the Shun glyph. It was strange to see. This gray presence was not affected by the grinding blue light at all. Soon, the gray presence spread on the Shun glyph. When the gray presence took over the last part of the Shun glyph, it disappeared silently in the air. A Gui's eyes were also a terrifyingly uniform gray. In a flash, 2 Shun glyphs were defeated. Chief Elder was astounded. The other 3 were astoundingly hardy against the other 3 Shun glyphs. They looked as though they were about to fall, but they never did. The 3 seemed to increase in morale at hearing Zuo's howl, and started to fight back. For some reason, Chief Elder felt even more fear. These people were too hardy, so hardy it was terrifying. He who had victory within his grasp and held the upper hand the entire time, was in danger. Without reaching God level, burning Shun power meant burning their potential life. Chief Elder could understand normal people's explosion. Each person had potential that would erupt when they encountered danger. But these people's danger had been completely burned away. Why? Why were they still persisting to now? Zuo, who charged and did not pause as he leapt at Chief Elder. A Shun glyph appeared in front of him. Yet Zuo seemed to be possessed. They had paid so much for this chance, sacrificed so much in order to charge here. To charge to Chief Elder. How could he be stopped by a Shun glyph? How could he? Zuo's eyes were like those of a bloodthirsty wild beast. Without any hesitation, he gathered all of his Shun power. Zuo felt as though he was about to burn up. Then he would burn. His enemy was in front of him. If he could defeat the Shun glyph, he could defeat Chief Elder. Smash it. Kill him. Zuo's Shun power erupted out. The deep red burning sun flows erupted with Zuo's sun Shun power. The golden and red lights gathered at Zuo's fist. His eyes red, Zuo shouted, "Kill!" A punch. A blinding light was released. Boom. The Shun glyph was not able to make any attack before it was swallowed by the burning light and destroyed. Chief Elder's expression was shocked. There was a terrifying presence in the light thrown by Zuo's punch. Zuo's eruption had come so suddenly and with no warning. In the next moment, Zuo appeared in front of him, covered in flames. He was even able to see Zuo's teeth in the flames. How was this possible? Chief Elder's mind was blank. His face was full of disbelief. Zuo had entered God level. How was it possible? God level. How could Zuo have entered God level? His Shun power and cultivation was not enough for him to enter God level? But why? Yet Zuo did not give him any time to think. His fist covered in burning sun flow hit Chief Elder's chest. Crack. Chief Elder's chest collapsed inward. The burning sun flow flowed like water into his body and destroyed his vitality. The enormous power caused Chief Elder's figure to be thrown into the ground, and left behind a seemingly bottomless hole in the ground. Chief Elder's presence dissipated, but Zhuo did not feel any joy. In this battle, they had sacrificed too much. Without the Chief Elder's control, the glyph sea immediately disappeared. Already at the end of their tether, everyone gave in to their fatigue and fell from the sky. Zhuo flashed from his spot to appear next to them and catch them. Of everyone, only Wei Sheng was still conscious. His eyes were filled with joy. He had originally planned to defeat Chief Elder as soon as possible, and before his power dissipated, pass his power to Shidi. Maybe Shidi would have a chance to survive. Everyone had ran through the glyph sea without any regard for their lives. When he saw Zhuo had entered God level and would be able to escape from here, Wei Sheng had a comforted smile. Zhuo felt as though there were knives stabbing his heart. Eldest Shixiang, who was like steel in his eyes, who was never defeated, didn't have any blood in his face. It was terrifyingly pale. Good job. Eldest Shixiang patted Zhuo's shoulder, as if they were those same youths back at Wukong Mountain. Then he urged, "Go now." Agui's gray presence grew even thicker. She was unconscious. Sung Lianer's breathing was faint. She did not have her usual indolence and looked like a simple young girl. Zhongru was covered in wounds. His face was like gold paper. While he was unconscious, his expression was calm. Willy's figure was slowly fading. In that last punch, a large amount of burning sun flow had been channeled out. At this time, Zhuo's body was quickly stabilizing. Chief Elder had been right. Zhuo hadn't had enough foundation. Theoretically, he couldn't enter God level. However, Zhuo smashing the sun crystal seed had won him a minuscule chance. The burning sun flows contained in the sun crystal seed was far greater than what Chief Elder had accumulated in power. But it was too strong. So strong that before Zhuo could use it to step into God level, he would be burned to death. However, Pu Yao and Wei cut apart Zhuo's sea of consciousness at the crucial moment, so that the sun Shin glyph would have new room to grow. It had absorbed half of the burning sun flows, strengthening his Shin power, and allowing Zhuo to escape from death. He had gained from his misfortune, and entered God level. The sacrifice of eldest Shixiang and the others had bought Zhuo time. Pu Yao and Wei's sacrifice had saved his life. Wei Sheng and Agui destroying the Shen glyphs, Sung Lianer, Zhongru, and Willy, who had entangled the other glyphs with the last vestiges of their strength, gave Zhuo the conditions to deliver a fatal blow. His chance to survive was one that everyone used their lives to grant. Quick, go. Wei Sheng raised his head to look at the sky and urged. This Jia was about to collapse. Zhuo's hand touched Wei Sheng's shoulder. He suddenly grinned at Wei Sheng. Eldest Shixiang, I'm not listening to you this time. Wei Sheng stilled. A burst of Shen power entered Wei Sheng's body from Zhuo's hand. Wei Sheng's vision filled with gold and fell unconscious. Zhuo carefully put Wei Sheng's body on the ground. Complex golden Shen glyphs floated on Wei Sheng's body. Eldset Shixiang, everyone used their lives to save my life. How can I abandon you in return? Zhuo stood as he talked to himself. He walked over to Agui and put his hand on Agui. Agui, young master is really useless. Young master said he would protect you, but the result is this. Young master will definitely save and awaken you, no matter the method. The golden Shen glyph floated on Agui's body. Agui's presence was completely sealed up. Zhuo's fire had dimmed greatly. He did not stop and did the same to Sung Lianer, Zhongru and Willy. After entering God level, his understanding of Shen glyphs was much greater. The Jinji he put only had one use, to stop time. The five would always be held in this state. It was not easy for Zhuo to cast this Jinji. All of the suns on the Sun Shin tree had disappeared. The tree trunk had begun to crack. The hair at his temples started to turn white. His lifespan was quickly decreasing. Zhuo did not hesitate. When he finished with all five, the white had spread from the temple to the tips of his hair. Everyone had used their lives to earn him the chance to live. Now that his life was secure and entered God level, he would trade his life for theirs. Maybe they would still all die together. A smile blossomed on Zhuo's face. It had nothing to do with rationality. This youth's snowy white hair fluttered in the wind. Chapter 851. The changes in the world. Silly bird looked dazedly at the white-haired Zhuo. Suddenly, she wailed, the bird song filled with sorrow. Her intelligence had formed a long time ago. She grew stronger by the day. She was even stronger than those ring masters. She still remembered that youth in that old desolate courtyard, who counted each jinxure. Still remembered carrying the unconscious youth from the gates of Linging sect, and struggling back to the sect. Still remembered her peeking through the cracks of her feathers, as that naked youth used the little art of cloud and rain to cover his important parts. Still remembered the person who had traveled over mountains and rivers to search for her, but after finding her point and swore at her. She had become stronger, and thought that she would be able to guard him like she did back at Wukong Mountain. Tears spilled from her eyes. She spread her wings, thick fire rising, bright and burning fire erupting into the air. Zhuo was joyfully surprised at Silly Bird transformation at this moment. At this time, his power had reached an extremely low level. With his present strength, it was not possible to return to Mo Cloud Sea. The most likely outcome was being lost in the endless void. The endless void was not a safe place. Also, Zhuo had to protect other people, so it would be even harder. Silly Bird transforming right now meant that he had help. Zhuo swept a gaze across everyone else. He found that only Qing Xiao and the little ones were the only ones left alive. Seeing Zhuo fine, they hurried over. Qing Xiao still had hints of fear on his face. The ground shook violently, volcanoes erupting. The sky seemed to be made out of glass with terrifying cracks spreading across it. Flowing fire fell from the sky. Earth fire erupted as geysers into the air. This Jia was about to collapse. Zhuo did not hesitate any longer. The flames around him rose and wrapped around Qing Xiao and the little ones. He shouted, Silly Bird. Covered in flames, Silly Bird heard Zhuo's shout and suddenly lowered her head. Go! Zhuo carried everyone to fly into the sky. Silly Bird gave a high bark and waved her flame-covered wings to chase after Zhuo. Zhuo finally saw Silly Bird's complete appearance. Her long tails were like ribbons. The feathers seemed to be made from flame. When she flew, sparks fell down. A word flashed through Zhuo's mind. Phoenix. A roar of laughter spread through the sky. A figure climbed out of a pit. It was Chief Elder. He raised his head to look at the sky. The sky had shattered into countless fragments and fire rained down. His face was terrible, and a large part of his chest had been caved in. He laughed bitterly. His life was gone. Zhuo's attack had completely destroyed all of his vitality. The reason he still managed to climb up was just because he was holding on by a single breath. He could die, but Tianhuan could not. Gathering the last bit of power, he quickly flew in another direction. The sky fire landed on his body, but he did not seem to feel it. Moments later, he had a joyful expression. Found it. There was no one in the yard. Chief Elder quickly flew into the secret room. In the room, Li Xian'er had a joyful expression when she saw Chief Elder. Chief Elder. But when her gaze landed on Chief Elder's abnormal chest, the joy turned to shock. Chief Elder? Who could have injured Chief Elder like this? Looking at Li Xian'er, Chief Elder was full of emotion. When he had just entered God level, he had been full of motivation. He hadn't expected to end up in such a state. However, he was not the average person. He quickly gathered his thoughts. Time was short. If he lived, Li Xian'er would just be an accomplished disciple. But if he died, Li Xian'er was crucial to Tianhuan's survival. There is no time, Chief Elder said gravely. I cannot return. After you return, meet the sect leader in secret first to stabilize the situation. Especially with me, Nan, you must be cautious. Li Xian'er's face was pale in fright. If Chief Elder died, Tianhuan. She didn't dare to think. Chief Elder rejoiced that he had left a secret escape route when he closed off this Jia. This was just his habit. He hadn't expected this habit to have such an effective use. Go. Chief Elder couldn't do anything else. Using the last bit of power, he started the transport. Li Xian'er disappeared with a shocked expression. The Battle of the Central Plains stunned the world. It had been more than 10,000 years since the destruction of a Jia. Only a God-level expert could create such a terrifying result. This battle drastically changed the situation of the world. The destruction of the Central Plains meant that Zhongde and his Abyss Jail Battalion had been completely wiped out. The rumors said that the king of Mo Cloud Sea, Zhuemo, also died, but Mo Cloud Sea's movements were not hesitant at all. Before everyone could react, the battalion led by Gong Sun Cha was like a sharp dagger that quickly entered the belly Shixian. They did not encounter any resistance on their way. Shixian, who had lost Zhongde, lost their last bit of courage. When Mo Cloud Sea's battalion was deep within Shixian, people finally realized. This was the start of another banquet. Many people still hungered after the banquet that was Xiankong Temple last time. Anyone that had attended that banquet had gained greatly. The collapse of a titan like Shixian was similarly tempting. Yet the development of the situation was unexpected to all. Mo Cloud Sea's battalions quickly took over and defended many of the important jies. They did not attempt to take all of Shixian. But those with clear eyes could see that if Mo Cloud Sea finished setting up, they would have control of almost 2/3 of Shixian's territories. Guliang Dao's battalion also entered Shixian with Mo Cloud Sea. The other party that moved quickly was Kunlun. Shuedong led his battalion to quickly enter Shixian. Mu Xian, who had been at a stalemate with Mu Shi, turned quickly and entered Shixian. People finally realized that Kunlun's true target wasn't Mu Shi. Their target was Shixian. Unlike Kunlun, who everyone thought had the better chances of conquering territory, no one thought that Mo Cloud Sea would gain much because of Tianhuan's many defensive fortresses. Tianhuan would not allow Mo Cloud Sea to finishing setting up. Yet unexpectedly, Tianhuan did not move at all. They watched as Mo Cloud Sea consolidated their control. What was going on with Tianhuan? People immediately realized that something had happened within Tianhuan. At this time, Tianhuan was having a great inner conflict. Li Xian'er became the target of Mi Nan and the others. Of all of Tianhuan's forces, only she had escaped. These elders wanted to take away her right to succession. The factions led by Gongye Xiaorong supported Li Xian'er instead. The two sides had a great conflict. Mi Nan, one of the 10 great battle generals, led many of the families of Tianhuan to divide their rule, and called themselves the orthodox faction of Tianhuan. Tianhuan split apart. When the news leaked, the world was astounded. Only now did the news that Tianhuan's chief elder was dead spread. Only now were many details of the Battle of the Central Plains exposed. Zhuemo, Weisheng, Zhongru, Aguit, Xinglianer, and Luoli. The blow that Mo Cloud Sea received was unparalleled. Shixian, Tianhuan, Mo Cloud Sea. This was a battle that all three sides lost. Everyone thought that Mo Cloud Sea, who had lost Zhuemo, and these many experts, would quickly crumble like Tianhuan. Unexpectedly, Mo Cloud Sea did not crumble, but became even stronger. The battalions led by Gong Sun Cha quickly finished their fortification in Shixian. At this time, Gunliang Dao's battalion encountered Shuedong battalion. Guliang Dao battalion was heavily damaged. Just as it looked as though they were about to be defeated, Gong Sun Cha came with reinforcements just in time and set up their army at the flank of Shuedong battalion. Shuedong had to withdraw his battalion or risk being pincered, and Guliang Dao's battalion was finally saved. The two great battle generals worked together to restrain Shuedong battalion. Mu Xian battalion, who entered Shixian, encountered obstruction from Yang Yuanhao battalion. Mu Xian hadn't expected Yang Yuanhao to attack Kunlun, and suffered a minor loss. The two sides quickly entered deadlock. Mu Xian's battle style could not be called fierce, and Yang Yuanhao's style was more about being stable. The two ended up in a long drawn-out battle of attrition. Kunlun saw their attack was not going well, and immediately put pressure towards the 9 Great Diana sect who supported Yang Yuanhao. Unexpectedly, Yang Yuanhao managed to hold against the pressure from the sects, and did not move a step back against Mu Xian. Mu Xian saw that if this continued, Kunlun would lose their last chance, so she started a strong attack. Yang Yuanhao paid a considerable price to stop Mu Xian's fierce attack, and successfully caught Mu Xian's weakness after their fierce attack to heavily injure Mu Xian battalion. Yang Yuanhao's face grew greatly after this battle, but Yang Yuanhao, holding against the pressure to win against Mu Xian battalion, caused the 9 Great Diana sects that were internally warring to fracture. Thunder Sound Temple, Lotus Sutra Temple, Splendid Buddha Temple, Sarangama heart sect formed the lesser four Dhyana sections. The others all sided with Kuan-Luan. At this time, no one had a positive outlook on Tianhuan. Xixian was covered in battlefields. The cruel and fierce battles caused many of the other factions to stop and just watch. The fighting between Kuan-Luan and Tianhuan was also fierce. Mu Shuang and Gongye Xiaorong were angered by Minan's betrayal and started an attack on Minan. In the inner conflicts of Tianhuan, Mu Shuang had always kept silent. However, Minan's action of starting a civil war in Tianhuan infuriated this great battle general. The fighting between the two sides was intense. All of the Xiuzhou world became an even greater battlefield. No place was spared. In the Yao world, using Mu Zai's successful campaign, Ming Yi managed to stabilize her power. An unprecedented cleansing of the Yao faction started. This Yao cleansing was so great it surpassed everyone's expectations. Even the one who started it, Ming Yi, never thought of it. The Mo territories were also in chaos. Inside the 100 Savage Realm, the Mo Shen Temple started to move. They displayed their great power. The Mo Martial Alliance that Bihan had beaten down became their first target. Time passed and advanced unstoppable, in battle and chaos. Chapter 852. Coffin Puller. Just like usual, a man sat silently as he waited for the appearance of prey. His body was in the bog with only his head above the mud. His head was hidden by thick branches. In this cold nether bog, there were some strange Mo beasts such as the nether-tailed fox that could be sold for a good price. While these Mo beasts were not aggressive, they were cunning and it was difficult to catch them. However, a man was a skilled hand at this. He was very familiar with the weather in the cold nether bog. He could enter it, and occasionally harvest some rare nether grasses and flowers. He did not need to worry that people would steal from him. It was rare to find other people in the cold nether bog. It was surrounded by a dangerous nether mist. If he didn't have his own methods, he would be unable to enter. Even the mud of the bog he was hiding in contained extremely strong nether energy. This was formed from the corpses of Mo beasts buried in the bog. Suddenly, a strange sound came from the distance. Woo-splash, woo-splash. A man frowned. He had never heard a sound like this before. His heart suddenly jumped. Had a Mo beast from deep in the cold nether bog come out? When this thought rose, his blood seemed to freeze. He was able to enter the cold nether bog, but he never dared to actually go deep into this bog. There were many nether beasts beyond his capabilities there. His ancestors passed down tales that said the cold nether bog's depths led to the 9 levels of the underworld. A man thought if there really was an underworld, but if there was, then it wasn't strange if it really was in the depths of the cold nether bog. With every mile one went into the cold nether bog, the danger would increase dramatically. The depths of the cold nether bog was the paradise of those dangerous and large Mo beasts. Once, he had seen an unknown Mo beast rampage its way over. Even when he thought of that vicious and powerful presence now, he felt as though it was a nightmare. He was lucky that time and he was completely immersed in the bog, otherwise he probably would have died. So when a man heard an unfamiliar sound, he felt his heart rise up to his throat. The sound grew closer, and he grew more nervous. The sound came from the nearby bushes. He stared the bushes and unconsciously held his breath. Trying to run away now was the stupidest action. Being able to hear the sound meant that the Mo beast was very close. Hiding in the bog right now was the correct choice. Suddenly, when it appeared in his view, he stilled. A person. It was a person. A man with snowy white hair appeared out of the thick bushes. He had a few thick ropes thrown over his shoulder. Each thick rope was taut with their ends extending into the bushes. The male walked over the mud as though he was stepping on flat ground as he pulled the ropes, dragging his burden forward. The whooshing sound came from the bushes. Suddenly, 5 wood coffins were pulled out of the bushes. A man's face changed in fear. He had never thought that the white-haired man was pulling 5 coffins. In this unpopulated place, to see a man with white hair pulling 5 coffins, even someone as daring as a man's blood froze. Especially when he saw the other suddenly turn towards him. His mind immediately blanked. He had been found. Finally encountered a person. Zuemo was filled with joy. After struggling and wandering in the endless void for so long, He finally escaped and found another person. His joy could be imagined. Behind him, Qing Xiao reacted even faster. With a shocked exclamation, his hand shook, and the green pull string on his wrist shot towards a man's hiding place. Qing Xiao had grown much bigger. He looked about 20. After moving through the endless void with Zhuo these years, his strength had grown. With the guidance of a god level like Zhuo by his side, and the experiences of the endless void, he was extremely powerful. 10 years. 10 whole years. They had roamed the endless void for 10 whole years. The endless void, the lifeless world without any people, the endless dangers. They had journeyed aimlessly to arrive back to civilization. Even with Zhuo's iron resolve, he couldn't help but feel excited, much less Qing Xiao. Hiding in the mud, a man felt something tighten around his body. Then a great force pulled him. He spun and flew in front of the white-haired man. The hair-thin green pulse string wrapped around a man and held him up in the air. Zhuo gave a friendly smile to a man who was frightened speechless. Then he said, "A Xiao, you are scaring him. Let him down." "Oh," Qing Xiao responded. The green pulse string seemed to hear and obediently put a man down, unwrapping from around a man and retreating back to Qing Xiao's hand. A man refocused and knelt with a bang, shouting, "Elder, have mercy! Elder, have mercy!" Zhuo didn't know what to do. With a wave of his hand, an invisible hand propped a man up. He said gently, "Don't worry, I don't want your life, I only want to ask you a few questions." A man's heart settled slightly. Looking at the other's friendly face, they really didn't seem to want to kill him. He hurriedly said, "Elder, ask whatever you need, this lowly one will not dare to conceal anything." A man was not an inexperienced person. In fact, he was very experienced. While he did not know the origins of this elder, the other was clearly powerful. How could a person that walked out of the depths of the cold nether bog be weak? According to his experience, the stronger the elder, the stranger their tempers were. He had to be careful. Looking at a man's caution and wariness, Zhuo did not care. He asked warmly, "Where is this?" A man stilled but quickly reacted to respond, "Darren, this is the cold nether bog." Cold nether bog. Zhuo had a blank expression. He had not heard of this name before. He had to ask which Jia. Deep fiend nether Jia, a man responded. Zhuo noticed the word nether had come up twice and asked, "Belonging to the nether realm?" A man hurriedly nodded. "Yes, in the nether realm." Zhuo sighed in relief. He hadn't thought that he would arrive at the nether realm. He was filled with joy. While the nether realm was mysterious, it was part of the Mo territories, and there would be some way of returning to Mo Cloud Sea. Thinking of everyone in Mo Cloud Sea, Zhuo couldn't help but become excited. In these years, Zhuo's own state had not been good. When he sealed the 5 people, other than the loss of his longevity, Zhuo's unstable cultivation that had just reached god level had almost collapsed. In the years Zhuo spent roaming the endless void, he had been recovering all this time. But his wounds were to the root, and the endless void was not a good place to heal. He did all he could and had finally stabilized his cultivation. However, his power had not recovered. If it was not for Silly Bird's transformation, the little ones all leveling up, and Qing Xiao's increase in power, he would have died long ago in the endless void. His sea of consciousness had shattered, which meant that he could not enter the 10-finger prison, and could not communicate with Mo Cloud Sea. The nether realm was far from Mo Cloud Sea, but it was within the 3 realms. He could think of ways to get back to Mo Cloud Sea. It has been a long time since this one entering the world. This one doesn't know of the changes outside. Will this little brother help us get to the nearest town? Zhuo was very polite. A man finally sighed in relief hearing the request. The other having use for him meant they would not kill him. He hurriedly said, of course, the closest city to her is Little Serene Town. If we walk, it will take about a day and a half. Many thanks, little brother." A red bead appeared on Zhuo's hand, which he threw to a man. "Little brother, do not refuse this small token." A man took the red bead and his heart jumped. Joy filled him. The eye of the red-eyed nether wolf. Faint warmth came from the ruby-like bead. There was the thick presence of fire, a pure and serene nether presence. It might be of high quality. Just this nether wolf fire bead was more than what he would make in a month. Many thanks, Elder. Many thanks, Elder. He was overjoyed. This time, he had great luck to encounter a well-tempered and generous elder. Zuemo smiled as he had been doing. Little brother, no need for such courtesy. This nether wolf fire bead was nothing to him. It was something they had killed along the way in the cold nether bog. The little ones wouldn't even deign to look on something of this level. The endless void was full of danger, but anything that survived there were all hundreds of thousands of years old. The little ones had gained picky tastes. Even Lil Pagoda, who had never lacked interest in the lowliest materials, scoffed at something like the nether wolf fire bead, much less anyone else. A man's mood was completely different now. Even his voice carried familiarity as he introduced to Zuemo the nearby situation. Zuemo had once ruled over a region and knew how management worked. He asked some seemingly disconnected questions and learned all about the area around Little Serene Town. Zuemo quickly formed his own conclusions. Little Serene Town was a very remote town without a battalion. The population was small and transportation to and from it was difficult. This place was cut off from the outer world. He could hear from a man's voice that the great majority of the residents had never left this little town. But a man had a clever mouth and mentioned he had left before. Little Serene Town made a living by hunting in and around the cold nether bog. The nether energy of the cold nether bog was pure, and all kinds of nether materials that grew here were of fair quality. The residents of Little Nether Town mostly lived by hunting and gathering materials. Zuemo did not know much about the nether realm, and listened interestedly. The nether realm had always been relatively closed off. As one of the two realms of the MO, it rarely communicated with the outside world. Even its interactions with Hundred Savage Realm was rare, much less the Xiozha world. The so-called nether energy was a kind of energy very similar to death energy. It was filled with cold and een, and the scent of death. It could be seen that this kind of energy similar to death was all over the nether realm. A man cultivated Shen power, and even this was filled with the presence of this nether energy. However, a man said what he cultivated was not true nether Shen power. True nether Shen power came from the nether energy. He could hear a man's yearning when he said this. A man was not fast as Zuemo, but Zuemo did not press him. Pulling the 5 coffins, he followed behind a man. A man spoke of all kinds of things in the nether realm, and it was not boring. A day and a half later, Little Serene Town was in sight. Chapter 853. Golden Chariot. The residents of Little Serene Town looked with wariness at Zuemo. Zuemo did not care. There were not many people who came to the little town, so there was only one hotel. Zuemo stayed in it. The feeling of returning to society was wonderful even in a small town like this. However, what was most important was communicating with Mo Cloud Sea. While the nether realm was far from Mo Cloud Sea, Zuemo still had ways. After entering God level, many things that he felt were mysterious before were no longer mysterious. Zuemo had also learned a lot from that battle with Chief Elder, especially many of the Shun glyphs that Chief Elder had collected. These were all gained by Zuemo. Zuemo's skill at Shun glyphs could not compare to Chief Elder, but after entering God level it was much easier for him to understand. In the years Zuemo had wandered in the endless void, Zuemo thought back to the many Shun glyphs that Chief Elder had in his glyph sea. For a God level, he only needed to remember a small part, and he could reconstruct the complete Shun glyph in a very short amount of time. Zuemo slowly folded the paper crane. He was full of excitement. The last time he communicated with everyone was in the moment before they left the Central Plains. He had gathered his remaining Shun power to send out a paper crane of the highest priority. When this paper crane was folded, he gently sent it flying. But the paper crane quickly returned to his hands. Zuemo was slightly shocked. It was the first time he encountered a situation like this. He quickly realized what had happened. The nether realm was locked down. This conclusion surprised Zuemo. Even a god level did not have the power to lock down an entire realm. Then it must be something similar to seal formations. How great was the scale of something that could lock down an entire realm be? Other than the ruler of the nether realm, Zuemo could not think of anyone that could accomplish this. Suddenly, Mo recalled the news that the Nether Realm had been united by a Nether King 10 years ago. At that time, no one had paid too much attention to that. The Nether Realm was far away and mysterious. Mo's mind moved. Was this done by that Nether King? Mo felt that his speculation was most likely true. However, this meant contacting Mo Cloud C was even more troublesome. Even paper cranes could not fly out, transportation formations were even more unlikely to work. At this time, his body had not recovered, and he could not overcome these restraints. The paper crane could not fly out of the Nether Realm. He could not enter the 10-finger prison. Then how was he supposed to communicate with Mo Cloud C? After thinking for a while, he found there was only one way: walk out of the Nether Realm. The enormous Nether Realm could not be completely sealed off. It had to have channels to the outside world. If he tried hard to find it, he definitely would. He had been able to make it through a decade in the endless void. What was this distance? Mo's gaze was determined. He started to think about how he could return to Mo Cloud C more effectively and faster. He believed nothing to stop his steps. Hey, man, what does the strange person you brought back really do? A resident of the town asked in a small voice. A man frowned and scolded. What strange person? Call them Elder. Careful not to offend Elder, you cannot afford to offend them. The one who spoke shrank his head back. A man's words were persuasive. Someone that dragged 5 coffins and walked out of the cold nether bog was definitely not someone they could offend. A man glanced at the hotel. It had been 5 days since Elder had last come out. Originally, this was nothing, but when the townspeople thought of the 5 coffins, they couldn't help but panic. In the Nether Realm, there were many that forged corpses. Had this Elder gone to the cold Nether Realm to dig up corpses? There were many that forged corpses, but normal people still disliked those that did so. Many years ago, in a city, someone had made a mistake when forging corpses and caused half of the people of that city to become zombies. It had been a long time since such a powerful corpse-forging MO had appeared. But when they thought of the white-haired person who had came out of the cold nether bog, everyone couldn't help but be filled with worry. A man didn't feel that Elder forged corpses. Elder didn't even have a hint of nether energy. He even felt that Elder didn't seem like MO. He didn't know why, but he just had the feeling. Suddenly, golden light came out of the hotel. A vast presence rampaged in waves. The hotel shattered like it was made out of paper. A golden chariot appeared in front of everyone. The chariot seemed to be made from gold. It was noble and grand. The roof of the chariot curved like the firmament, golden tassels draping down like golden flames. The wheels of the chariot were held up by golden flames to float in the air. The body of the chariot was carved with exquisite sun diagrams. And at the center of each sun was a precious gem that a man didn't recognize. They released all kinds of light. The entire chariot was about 20 zhang, astoundingly large. All of Little Serene Town was stunned by this chariot. Many people unconsciously knelt. They were completely conquered by this chariot. That vast and deep presence was like an ancient king looking down on the world. A man, are you willing to be my guide? A faint voice came from the chariot. Excitement rose on a man's face. He said without hesitation, a man is willing to follow Darren. Come up. A man felt a cloud pushing him up, and he came onto the chariot. A man was extremely clever and bowed after getting on the chariot. Elder, where are we going? Where is the most prosperous city in this Jia? Wuxia City, a man said respectfully. Then I want to go there. Yes. A man did not waste words. The chariot broke through the air and left behind a stream of golden flames as it roared like thunder. Mo had thought it through. While his Shen power had not recovered, his god-level cultivation was steady. He could easily defeat normal experts. He also had the little ones and Qing Shao as powerful sidekicks. Even if he also met a god level, he did have the ability to fight. In other words, he was at the top of the food chain now. He did not want to provoke a strong enemy, but if other people came to provoke him, they should measure themselves first. Normal experts and battalions were not a threat to people of his level. What he needed to do now was to return to Mo Cloud C at the fastest possible speed. He needed to let Mo Cloud C know he was still alive and had returned as soon as possible. There was no need to hide his identity right now. There was no need, and he should be as loud as possible to attract attention. Only then would the news he was still alive spread more easily. Also, being ostentatious, arrogant, and looking dangerous meant that it would save him great trouble. After thinking this through, Zhuo forged the showy sun chariot. With his present level, his forging had reached the peak. Also, he had collected many good materials. Adding on that he deliberately was pursuing grandness and ostentatious. The sun chariot was majestic when it was forged. The flames covering the wheels were sunshine fire. There were 8 shin glyphs on the entire chariot. It could be called Zhuo's masterpiece. When the chariot was used, it roared and wailed. The world seemed to shake. Anyone who heard it was stunned. The spectators were not able to see the true form of the chariot. They could only see a ball of flowing fire come with the vast presence of a wasteland beast that shook people's souls. Such presence, it attracted attention anywhere it passed. No one dared to provoke them. Zhuo's intention was not just to attract attention. This grand sun chariot had many shin formations that could absorb all kinds of powers and turn them into shin power. He would then use it to repair his body. Zhuo could feel that his body was slowly recovering. The endless void was the best place to gain experience, but not the best place to cultivate. That icy endless void meant that not only was it hard for his shen power to be replenished, he had to always be on his guard for his shen power silently leaking out. In these 10 years, he had thought of all the ways he could to take care of the 5 people. The 5's vitality was sealed off. In order for them to live, he had to think of ways to replenish their vitality. There were 5 nurturing shin formations inside the 5 coffins. In this decade, Zhuo had not been idle even one day. In order to save these 5 people, he created the shin formations that had shin glyphs as the core and the seal scripts as the branches. He pulled the 5 coffins, and moved with Qing Xiao and the little ones like locusts. They dug up everything valuable everywhere they passed to search for the required materials. Zhuo did not hesitate to use priceless treasures on Weisheng, the other 4, and the little ones. Other than those things he needed to cultivate every day and stabilize his cultivation. The shin formations had the ability to steal life from the heavens. He threw in all kinds of treasure without regard for the cost. After being nursed for 10 years, the 5 were finally starting to get better. Zhuo was able to hear the soft breathing of the 5. Their destroyed bodies started to recover vitality. He had not stopped thinking about this for 5 years. Zhuo's understanding of power reached a profound level. He knew how he should recover his power. His shen power had not recovered, but his cultivation was steady. He had ways. The chariot passed through thick clouds, thunder and lightning being attracted to the chariot. The chariot was covered by the lightning, and it was so blinding it was like an angry god descending. The thick lightning was absorbed by the shin formations on the chariot, and turned into shin power to nurse Zhuo's body. His body that was as dry as the desert greedily sucked every drop of shin power, and slowly returned vitality. A man looked at the lightning that was flashing constantly outside. When the first bolt had come, he was half frightened to death. Such a thick bolt of lightning. If he was hit, there probably won't even be ash left. The scene that occurred after caused him to lose the ability to think. Thousands, no tens of thousands, of bolts of lightning came out of the corners of the clouds and furiously hit the chariot. A moment later he recovered from his daze. He unconsciously rubbed his face. He was still alive. He was actually still alive. Heavens! He suddenly became excited. That scene he had just witnessed was the most spectacular he ever saw in this life. Elder was too powerful. At this time he wanted to kneel in thanks. He was really fortunate. A man Elder's voice came from the chariot room. A man shook and said respectfully, "A man is here. Let me have a look at the shun methodology you cultivate." The clever a man was overjoyed. The intentions of the elder to teach him was indicated in his tone. He suppressed his excitement. He took out a bone covered in patterns and handed it over with both hands. Chapter 854. Qingshaowuge City was the most prosperous city of the Jia, and as expected, Zhuo learned much useful information here. After 10 years, the world had changed significantly. After cultivating for 10 years, no matter which faction one spoke of, a large amount of experts had rose. These experts mostly were names that Zuomo had never heard of. Zuomo found this from a man. He perceptively recognized the change. If the era of Shen power had just begun 10 years ago, then after 10 years, Shen power was facing its spring. However, what he was most happy was the news of Mo Cloud C. Unlike Tian Huan, who descended into civil war, and Shi Xian, who had been consumed, Mo Cloud C was prospering. Right now, Mo Cloud C was the second-ranked power in the Xiuzhou world, only under Kunlun. Gong Sun Cha had been fighting these 10 years and won all encounters, defeating all challengers. His ranking rose, and he was now the second strongest battle general after Shuedong. Bihan had not rested on his laurels. His ranking had risen to 6th. The two working together had taken almost half of Shi Xian's territories. The one that had benefited the most from the division within Tianhuan was Mo Cloud C. Mo Cloud C had grabbed the opportunity of the North and South Tianhuan factions war to sell the Mo Cloud Shen equipment, and set themselves as the biggest seller of Shen equipment. Kunlun had become even stronger. While they had been stopped by Gong Sun Cha and were unable to accomplish their goal, they still took almost 1/3 of Shi Xian's territory. Adding on the 5 sects of the 9 great Diana sects that had sided with them, Kunlun's territories were unprecedentedly large. However, after the Battle of the Central Plains, Lin Qian had stayed in seclusion and had not come out. When he saw this bit of news, Zuomo's pupils unconsciously contracted. Lin Qian had definitely received significant wounds when he fled. With Zuomo's present level, he could accurately judge the amount of damage Lin Qian had received then. Lin Qian's wounds had definitely healed long ago. There was only one possibility why he was in seclusion. Lin Qian was trying to become god level. 10 years had passed. The average level of Shen power had gone up a few levels since then. With Lin Qian's abilities, it was possible that he might reach god level. Zuomo had a general guess of Lin Qian's intentions. If Lin Qian successfully became god level, he would ascend to be the only god level of the Xiuzhou realm, and would lead the biggest sect in the world, Kunlun. His reputation would reach a level never seen before. At that time, all would want to join him. Even Mo Cloud C would not be able to stop him. This was truly to accomplish all in one stroke. But Lin Qian definitely would not have thought that Zuomo would come back alive. Zuomo's eyes flashed with cold light. A smile came onto his lips. After 10 years of hardship, his resolve was hardened. He was far from the little Mo Gu of the past. For Lin Qian, who seemed like his fated archenemy, Zuomo did not feel any fear. He was filled with confidence. He anticipated the next time they fought. The only one in the Xiuzhou world that could be a match for him was Lin Qian. Zuomo quickly refocused and continued reading. The Xiuzhou world had changed from the 3-party equilibrium to 2 fighting for dominance. Tianhuan's split and decline and Mo Cloud C's rise formed a clear contrast. Compared to 10 years ago, there were many more small factions. Tianhuan had split into North and South Tianhuan. Both sides thought they were the orthodox one. The long-standing internal conflict had used up their already weak strength. Other than this, the split of the 9 great Diana sect was not a surprise. However, the lesser 4 Diana sects had not sided with Mo Cloud C. Zuomo knew that it was because he was not there, and Yang Huanhao's confidence in Mo Cloud C had wavered. He did not feel that Yang Yuanhao was wrong. Truthfully, even Zuomo was filled with surprise at Mo Cloud C's development. Time had been tight then. The paper crane he sent out only had 5 words. Wait for us to return. At that time, he hadn't been sure if they could survive, but he still sent the message. His thoughts then had been simple: to leave behind a hope for everyone. He didn't know how much use this hope was. He didn't know if this hope would come true. But he didn't want Mo Cloud C to split like this. He hoped that everyone would stay united. Losing him, losing eldest Shi Xiang and the other 4 great experts. This blow was enough to be fatal to Mo Cloud C. At this time, a hope was like a life-saving stalk of grass. Zuomo knew that for many factions, an intangible hope like this was like an illusion and had no meaning or value. They would still split up and crumble. But Mo Cloud C did not. Everyone hadn't given up. For some reason, Zuomo was moved. an intangible hope in exchange for 10 years of standing guard. This was Mo Cloud C. Qing Xiao's gaze swept across the Mo in front of him. Truthfully, he didn't know why Darren needed to recruit people. In his view, these people were all average in strength. However, Qing Xiao did not understand, but since Big Brother had told him to do this, he would complete it to the best of his abilities. Qualification 1 Youth. Qualification 2 Strong. Qing Xiao chanted in his mind as he swept a gaze again. Then he pointed into the crowd. You. He pointed out 10 people in one go. A man gaped from the side. Elder had asked him to help Qing Xiao Darren to pick 10 servants. Usually, this would be done by going through round after round of competition to pick out the elites. There were more than 1,000 people here. When Elder's chariot entered Wuxia City, all of Wuxia City had been disrupted. Even the city master had ran to the gates to welcome them. Watching the city master, who was so old he was almost in the ground, bow with the humble mannerisms of a junior, a man felt it was extremely strange. Elder was living in the mansion of the city master. Then countless people came and tried to curry favor with Elder. Someone started, and now a large group ran to the city master's mansion every day to ask Elder for guidance. These people were delusional. Thinking about the Shun methodology Elder had bestowed, a man felt wonderful inside. He felt a clear difference when he cultivated these days. The Shun methodology that Elder had given him was as extraordinary as expected. These people did not scatter, and it started to look ugly. There were many sons and nephews of the local powers here. Elder had barely agreed when he said he wanted 10 servants. And then, it became like this. More than 1,000 people surrounded the gates of the city master's mansion. The scene was so spectacular a man gaped. A man was proud, but he felt slightly uncertain. Any person among these could beat him like a dog. He was only considered strong in Little Serene Town. In Wuxia City he was nothing. Looking at Qing Xiao casually picking 10 people, a man swallowed the words that reached his mouth. Qing Xiao Darren definitely had his own reasons. The ones that were chosen were overjoyed. Those who were not were extremely disappointed. Suddenly, someone shouted from within the crowd. Not fair. This is not fair. Why did you choose them? A man felt it was a bad shift in the crowd. There were many lawless people among this group. As Mo, if they were chosen by combat, there wouldn't have been a problem. Qing Xiao picking people by seemingly random choice was something many people could not accept. After a short pause, many people started to shout as well since there were many that were not chosen. The mob grew rowdy at the gates of the city master's mansion. Qing Xiao had not expected he would encounter something like this. He was not stupid and he frowned as he thought. If Big Brother encountered something like this, what would he do? Big Brother didn't seem to have encountered this situation before. Qing Xiao thought for a while. He felt that these people were as disobedient as Black Gold. Oh, how did Silly Bird deal with Black Gold? Beat him. The Black Gold Seal soldier feared the strong and bullied the weak. He fawned in front of Big Brother, but he liked to posture in front of everyone else. He was also greedy, and when he had a conflict with the little ones, he had been beaten up by Silly Bird before he became docile. Beat them up. Qing Xiao suddenly realized, so Big Brother wanted to teach me this. Qing Xiao did not hesitate. He flew into the air, and the green pulse string at his wrist spread out. The long green pulse string gave off thick green light, and was tense like a bowstring. Qing Xiao's right arm pulled back slightly, and the green pulse string moved like a bowstring. Hiss. Light started to gather at the bowstring that Qing Xiao pulled. The sky above Wuxia City immediately turned dark. The light where his hand touched the bowstring became even brighter. An extremely dangerous presence covered the 1,000 people below. It seemed everyone's neck was put into a stranglehold. The swearing suddenly stopped. Everyone looked dazedly at Qing Xiao in the air, and that outrageously dangerous ball of light in his hand. Blood retreated visibly from their faces. The thick green light reflected Qing Xiao's calm expression. The crowd could not see any puzzlement or panic on his face. He seemed to be doing a simple thing. The thick Shen power covered all of Wuxia City. Would he destroy Wuxia City? Damn it! The city master of Wuxia City could not stand by any longer. If he knew, he would have sent a battalion to maintain the peace. These bastards! How dare they anger Elder? His heart burned in urgency. After being city master for so many years, he was more knowledgeable than normal people. To say of nothing else, just that chariot had blinded him. He was not a country bumpkin. He had associated with many of the so-called prestigious families. But he had never seen such a grand chariot. Also, this was definitely not a normal chariot. Even someone blind could see that this was not a normal chariot. Also, someone blind would be able to see that Elder was of extraordinary origins. He had the impulse to kill the 1,000 people. You idiots! Did you not see that even this city master was full of respect? And you still dare cause trouble? If you ruin this city master's matter, I will kill you all myself. The city master gritted his teeth. He was currying favor with this Darren of unknown origins for his own goals. The 1,000 people below were dumbstruck. Did this person want Wugu City to bleed in rivers? Qing Xiao did not think so much. He remembered clearly that Silly Bird had beaten Black Gold like a dog. Therefore, he released the bowstring. Chapter 855. Conflict. An enormous and blinding green ball of light consumed the 1,000 people. Boom. The burning light was like a sun. People's vision turned white. In that moment, people only saw the light and couldn't hear a thing. Time seemed to stop in this moment. Their mouths were wide, their faces pale, and their minds blank. When the wave of air rushed at them, they seemed to be whipped and thrown into the air. The wave of air spread in all directions like an unstoppable herd of beasts. Silence, deathly silence. In the sky, Qing Xiao had a blank expression as he looked down. His gaze did not show any pride. He seemed to have just carried out in simple action. This really was not anything major. Qing Xiao had roamed with Zhuo Mo in the endless void for so many years. What kind of danger had he not encountered? Oh, they weren't dead. Qing Xiao looked around and then showed an expression of satisfaction. While Silly Bird had beaten Black Gold, she hadn't killed him. This was an important point. Yet seeing this calm expression, none one present had any thoughts of fighting back. The space in front of the gates was in ruins. More than 1,000 people were sprawled out on the ground unconscious. Not even one was standing. Who still has objections? Qing Xiao's young voice echoed in the sky above the city master's mansion. He remembered that Black Gold had been beaten repeatedly by Silly Bird. That incident had left a deep impression on Qing Xiao. Even the most rebellious would be good after being beaten a few times. Complete silence. People looked in terror at the figure of the youth in the sky. The remaining Shen power fluctuations in the air still caused fear. It was not nether Shen power. The youth's Shen power did not have vibrations of nether presence. Some started to speculate about the origins of the youth, but no one dared to make a sound. No one doubted that this slightly young-looking youth had the power to flatten all of Wugu City. The youth had clearly restrained himself. The people on the ground were all unconscious, but no one had died. Blood had not flowed, but the youth's astounding control of Shen power made people feel even colder. Such a large-scale attack, and such precise control. If they did not see it with their own eyes, they would not believe it. Had he started cultivating from when he was conceived? People suddenly thought of that mysterious white-haired elder behind the youth. Many people's thoughts started to turn lively. Big leg. This was a thick and big leg. Zhuo Mo did not care at all about what happened outside. There wasn't much information he could gather from Wugu City. But one thing was confirmed. Up until now, no god-level experts had appeared. Right now, the only things that could threaten Zhuo Mo were god-level experts. Zhuo Mo did not feel relaxed. In truth, he was pressured. This indescribable pressure came from Lin Qian. Ever since he heard that Lin Qian had been in seclusion for 10 years, Zhuo Mo knew that Lin Qian could come out at any time. If Lin Qian came out, he would definitely be god-level. Zhuo Mo's body needed time to heal. Zhuo Mo measured his Shen power progress and shook his head inwardly. If it continued at this rate, it probably will take him 3 years to completely recover. In order to seal Wei Sheng and the others, Zhuo Mo's body had been fundamentally damaged, and heavily damaged at that. In order to increase their vitality, almost all of the materials he gained in these 10 years had been used on the 5 coffins and the little ones. Zhuo Mo had not progressed at all. He had managed to survive by sheer will. His body was damaged to the point it could not produce Shen power on its own. The greatest difference in Shen power after entering God level was the process of its burn and refinement. When God levels fought, their Shen power burned like fire but was stable. Their Shen power was exponentially more condensed than those not in God level. Zuomo's body was in a terrible state, but his Shen power was 50 times more condensed than before. In other words, the Shen power that he absorbed needed to be compressed 50 times after refinement. Shen power was one of the strongest powers. When other powers were turned into Shen power, the amount was already small, and after being refined and compressed, the amount was minuscule. This was also the reason God level was powerful. Shen power 50 times more condensed, and their power was 100 times stronger than Shen power before. This was a fundamental difference. The refined Shen power was used to repair Zuomo's body. When Zuomo's body recovered, its ability to produce Shen power would also recover, and Zuomo's Shen power recovery would quickly increase. God levels were one of the strongest beings in the world. This strength didn't just come from their power, even their bodies were powerful. The ability of their bodies to produce Shen power surpassed the Shen formations on Zuomo's chariot. If Zuomo's body was completely recovered, he could refine Shen power to 100 times. However, if the body of a God level was damaged, it also needed refined Shen power. Zuomo's body was like that. Shen power that was not compressed 50 times was not of any use to his body. It was too slow relying just on the power that the chariot absorbed from the world. He had to think of a way. At this time, a servant reported that the city master was visiting. The 10 servants that Qing Xiao had picked had started to work without needing any orders. Qing Xiao had made good choices. Zuomo had even found an ancient bloodline in one of them. However, he did not plan on spending much energy on these people. He gave them to Qing Xiao to train. It was a way for him to gain experience. Zuomo decided to see the city master. Junior greets elder. The city master bowed respectfully. We are a little rural town, we do not know manners. If there is something we lack in our care, elder, please have tolerance. Then he took out a gray piece of wood the thickness of an arm, and presented it with 2 hands. He said respectfully, "This is nether ghost in heavy wood, elder, please accept it." Zuomo beckoned, and that gray wood landed in his hands. This wood was not eye-catching, but it was extremely heavy, as hard as steel and filled with nether energy. Zuomo was slightly surprised. It was the first time he encountered materials of this kind. After studying it for a few moments, he felt that this item was a good treasure. He put the nether ghost in heavy wood in the ring and said straightforwardly, "This is good and I will accept it. What is your request?" The city master was overjoyed. "This is just a token of Junior's sincerity." Zuomo waved his hand and interrupted the other's words. "There's no need to say such things, it's just a trade. If it is something I can resolve, speak." The city master did not hesitate when he saw this. He knelt and begged sincerely. Junior only asks for elder to protect his family. Zuomo's brow furrowed slightly. This request was clearly unexpected. But he thought, it may not be a bad thing. Even if he was a god level now, his individual power was still limited. After a moment of thought, Zuomo spoke, "Stand up and speak." Hearing this, the city master was about to speak when an extremely arrogant voice came from outside. "The Tomb guard has matters here. Get out of the way." The city master's expression changed. Zuomo's mind shifted, and he saw the situation outside. A troop of about 300 people were marching ferociously towards the city master's mansion. Looking at the city master whose expression had changed dramatically, Zuomo decided to stand by and watch. The 2 servants guarding the gates of the mansion changed expression, but still stepped out. "Halt!" The MO leading the troop had a snarl. With a wave of his hand, the 2 seemed to be hit and slammed into the city master's mansion like sandbags. Zuomo's face suddenly turned cold. Qing Xiao was yearning to go. He was at a hot-blooded age, and didn't fear fighting at all. "A Xiao, break his arms and legs." Zuomo said coolly. "All right." Qing Xiao was excited. Before he finished speaking, his body had disappeared. The MO who had charged through the gate suddenly stopped. He was experienced in combat, and had exceptional senses towards danger. He shouted in shock. Form the formation. Before he finished, a green shadow appeared in his view like a ghost. A feeling of extreme danger rose. His hair stood on end. He didn't dare to hesitate. All the Shen power in his body gathered together, Nether Shen power wrapping around his right fist as he punched out. Nether Tiger Fist. A gray fist energy like a roaring nether beast leapt at the green shadow. Thick killing intent and the dark and cold nether energy wrapped together was unstoppable. Qing Xiao was interested. He snickered and breathed. A similar green light lighting up on his right fist. The green light layered rapidly and then became clear like glass. Sky Glass Wave. The Sky Wave fist was actually a very simple fist scripture. After Zuemo modified it, he gave it to Qing Xiao. Zuemo taught Qing Xiao everything. Other than the Green Vine Shen methodology, he taught many other techniques. After entering God level, Zuemo's vision reached an unprecedented breadth. All that he had learned in the past were transformed into new things in his hands. The Sky Wave Fist scripture was one of those. Qing Xiao was the descendant of the Greenvine tribe, and had pure ancient blood. His comprehension was exceptional, and his Shen power cultivation was faster than the average person. Pew! The green fist energy effortlessly passed through the Nether Tiger Fist energy. The Een Tomb Guard was startled. They did not care about their face as they tried to dodge to the side. The green and glassy fist energy dangerously brushed past where he had just been. He sighed slightly in relief. Where had Old Man Qin found such a powerful expert? Boom! The fist energy exploded without any warning. The Een Tomb Guard was stunned as though he had been smashed. Qing Xiao did not hesitate to move up. Crack, 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 crack. Briskly breaking this person's hand and feet, he flashed in front of Zuemo and threw the unconscious Een Tomb Guard to the ground. Big brother done. He was still hungry for battle. This guy wasn't hardy at all. Zuemo nodded. Clean up the people outside. All right. Qing Xiao did not waste words. He disappeared with another flash. Sounds came from outside, and there were wails and muffled grunts. Moments later, Qing Xiao flashed back into the mansion with a relaxed expression. Big brother, all of them are unconscious. The city master gaped with wide eyes. Chapter 856. Mind Zuemo nodded. He then pointed at the two servants who had been attacked at the gates. Pick a simple Shen methodology and teach them. The other servants had expressions of envy. Earning a Shen methodology due to being knocked unconscious, it was a great profit. They decided that if they encountered danger in the future, they could not retreat. Zuemo saw the changes in expression of the other servants. He was practiced at leading by example and using fair reward and punishment. While he did not plan on spending too much time on these servants, after establishing Mo Cloud C's rules and motivating culture, he did this out of habit. Zuemo turned and said to the city master, "Speak slowly, do not skip anything, do not hide anything." The city master was completely won over. This white-haired youth elder in front of him was not one of the old people whose minds had been turned pedantic by cultivation. He hurriedly started to explain in detail. Outside the city master's mansion, countless eyes stared at this scene. Old man Wu Qin's luck is about to turn around. A middle-aged person sighed. This old guy's luck is really too good. A male that looked slightly androgynous couldn't resist saying after a moment of silence. His expression was strange. These two had thought that the Wu family would not be able to escape this calamity. They hadn't expected a terrifyingly powerful expert to appear, and in a blink, reversed the situation. "Did you discover the origins of that white-haired youth?" the androgynous male said with a frown. "While old man Wu says elder, I have a feeling that he is young." The middle-aged man said gravely, "He came out of the cold nether bog. He first appeared in Little Serene Town. According to the locals, when this person came to Little Serene Town, he was dragging 5 coffins. The androgynous man jumped in fright. 5 coffins? Is he a corpse refining Mo? Coming out of the cold nether bog? He was truly given a fright. Wuge City was not far from Little Serene Town. No one knew better than they did what the cold nether bog was like. Everyone knew that the cold nether bog was filled with countless treasures, but no one ever dared to go in deep. Only some local hunters could exist on the outskirts of the cold nether bog. The core of the cold nether bog was a forbidden land of death. A person that came out dragging 5 coffins from the cold nether bog, the forbidden land of death, probably breathed poison. From any angle, this person was one they could not provoke. The middle-aged person's throat was slightly dry. When he learned of this news, he had been shocked as well. He suppressed his fear and said gravely, "I don't know where he came from. I'm afraid that his strength can match Gai Yuan of the Tomb Guards." Gai Yuan, the androgynous male exclaimed in shock. How is it possible? Gai Yuan Darren is unfathomable in power. He was the one to build the reputation of the Tomb Guards in the recent years. No matter how strong that white-haired guy is, he cannot be compared to Gai Yuan Darren. Let's reconsider our plans carefully. The middle-aged person did not argue and only reminded, "The water here is too deep. If we are not careful, our families will both drown." The androgynous male became silent. He knew that the other was right. They had originally thought that Old Man Wu was finished this time. They hadn't expected someone powerful to disrupt the situation, and the situation to become confusing again. How about we watch a bit more? The androgynous man could not decide and said with a hesitant expression. The middle-aged man was silent. This matter was too important. It could decide the life and death of his family. He did not dare to rashly decide. Zhuo had never thought that he would be pulled into an internal conflict in the Nether Realm. Ever since the Nether King had united all of the Nether Realm, he had remained out of view. The last time he had appeared was 5 years ago. In the last 5 years, the Nether King never appeared in public again. Even the 4 Nether Lords had never seen the Nether King. A recent while ago, the Nether King had appeared in public and suddenly mentioned the matter of selecting a successor. It had to be stated that the Nether King did not have any children. Up until now, the background of the Nether King was a mystery. No one knew anything. The Nether King had appeared out of nowhere. Everywhere he passed, the factions submitted to him, the experts bowed their heads, and he created his kingdom. If the Nether King had children, then there was nothing to say about the matter of succession. The Nether King was unparalleled in battle, and healthy. It didn't seem a problem for him to live a century or more. No one would even dare to have thoughts. But the Nether King did not have children. Mentioning this matter now seemed to imply that he wanted to decide this matter before his death neared. After the Nether King made this declaration, the people below naturally became lively. The most likely to succeed was the 4 Nether Lords. Each Nether Lord was a powerful expert. Each of them had been personally defeated by the Nether King in the past. Each of them were skilled in war and accomplished. The 4 Nether Lords ruled over an area, and they had great warriors and skilled advisors in their service. Even more importantly, all 4 Nether Lords were in the prime of their lives. Any one of them would be a good successor to the throne. The Nether Realm immediately became full of turbulence. The Nether Realm being closed off was a direct consequence of this matter. Originally, a matter like this wouldn't have anything to do with the small Wuxia city. Yet the ripples of the conflict still touched this Jia. Ripples on higher levels meant that those below started to clash between themselves, especially in matters like this where they had to take sides. Wuxia city was not large, but it had a unique product called black nether metal. Black nether metal was one of the materials used to make nether armor. While it was not used in great amounts, it was important. For the little Wuxia city, this caused their situation to become terrible. The Tomb Guards were the closest to Wuxia city, so they were the first to come and request for Wuxia city to hand over this mine. Of course Wuxia city refused, and the 2 sides did not part amiably. Then a few more factions came to talk with Wuxia city, which displeased the Tomb Guards. The friction between the 2 sides quickly rose. Hearing this, Zhuo was slightly puzzled. The Tomb Guards do not have any restraints. The city master of Wuxia city had a grimace. Elder may not know. The Tomb Guards are not as powerful as the 4 great Nether Lords, but they are special. The Tomb Guards were one of King's earliest battalions, deeply trusted by King, and were stationed to guard the 10,000 tombs of the Netherworld. 10,000 tombs of the Netherworld? It was the first time Zhuo heard this name. The master of Wuge City explained. The 10,000 tombs of the Netherworld is a land of bones that is endless. Tombs are packed in there, and innumerable. It is where the nether energy is greatest in all of the nether realm. While the Een tomb guards are not large, their status is high. Zhuo finally understood most of it. It was most likely that the Een tomb guards wanted to obtain the black nether mine of Wuge City. It would add some chips for the Een tomb guard to deal with the upcoming storm. A man's wealth is his own ruin by causing the greed of others. Wuge City had such a tempting mine, but no ability to protect it. It was natural for calamity to come. Will this not end if you give up the black nether mine? Zhuo asked. Wuge City master grimaced again. But Netherlord Hai Xianbing has already ordered for us to deliver 30,000 caddies of black nether, or in 3 months, otherwise. Otherwise? Zhuo asked interestedly. Otherwise my entire clan will be executed. City master of Wuge City cried. Junior wants to give up the mine. However, Hai Xianbing Darren always abides by his declarations. If we do not deliver 30,000 caddies of black nether metal in time, and the Een tomb guard is only willing to accept the mine. Zhuo had an expression of sympathy as he thought inside. It was clear that Hai Xianbing also wanted this mine. The Een tomb guards were no willing to help the city master of Wuge City against Hai Xianbing. The pitiful city master was stuck in the middle, and would naturally be the worst off. The Een tomb guards and Hai Xingbing's battle was clearly at a stage where both sides were probing each other. The tragedy was that Wuge City was the target both sides chose to use as the test. The two sides were using Wuge City to test the confidence and bottom line of the other side. How do you want me to help you? Zhuo asked the city master of Wuge City. The city master knelt on the ground. Junior is willing to gift the mine to Elder, only hoping that Elder can protect the safety of Junior's family. What do I need your mine for? Zhuo laughed. His mind suddenly moved and he sank into thought. At this time the leader of the Een tomb guard woke up. Hearing this, he was furious and he said angrily, Old man Wu, you dare. You collude with those outside the race. Zhuo waved his hand. Snap, the leader flew out as though he had been whipped. He smashed to the ground and was unconscious again. All right, I will accept the mine. Zhuo raised his head and said to the city master. As to the safety to your family, you have 2 choices. One is to follow me, the other is that I will negotiate with them and have them not make trouble for you. Our entire family is willing to follow Darren. The city master said unhesitatingly. He could see clearly that he was like a fleshy bone that had been tossed out to the dogs. In the end, someone would eat him. He did not care about the mine any longer, he only hoped to protect his clansmen. He was angry at the Een tomb guards for wanting the mine, but not being willing to protect his clansmen. Rather than that, it was better to give the mine to Elder to trade for the safety of his family. It was easy to choose between the 2 options. With his understanding of the Een tomb guards, once Elder left, they would definitely extract revenge. Zhuo was slightly surprised at this old man's decisiveness. A hint of admiration flashed through his eyes. Good. Zhuo nodded. Have Qing Xiao go to your clan to pick 10 young people. They will learn from Qing Xiao in the future. The city master of Wuge City was overjoyed. Many thanks, Darren. He rejoiced that he had not judged wrong. Darren was not a cruel person. With Qing Xiao Darren's guidance, these 10 clansmen would have bright futures. He had seen Qing Xiao Darren's great strength with his own eyes. Zhuo then said coolly, Send someone to tell the Een tomb guards and Hai Xianbing that I have the mine. Have them come talk to me. Hearing Zhuo's cool and calm words, for some reason, Old Man Wu's terror was swept away. He bowed and said, Yes. Chapter 857 Guidance. What do you know about his origins? Guyan had a grave face. He was one of Hai Xianbing's great generals, and responsible for the matter of Wuge City. Guyan was about 40 years old, dressed like a scholar, and his eyes would occasionally flash with cold light. Each nether lord had the right to build their own mansion. Hai Xianbing's Northern Plains Ice Mansion was full of dragons and tigers. Guyen was deeply trusted by Hai Xian Bingdaran, but he did not dare to slack off. The infighting inside the mansion far surpassed people's imaginations. A mere black nether metal mine was not enough to personally disturb Hai Xian Bing. Origins unknown, but he walked out of the cold nether bog, just outside Little Serene Town. When he appeared, he was dragging 5 coffins. Then he traveled using an extraordinary chariot. Everywhere it passed, wind and thunder roared. The intelligence network of Northern Plain Ice Mansion was extensive. They had investigated thoroughly in a short time. This person has completely white hair, but his face is young. His true age is hard to estimate. He has a youth with him, about 20 or so, who is extremely powerful. Supposedly, Tuoba Min of the Een Tomb Guards lost in one exchange. The 200 guards with Tuoba Min were defeated in a short amount of time. Tuoba Min? Guyen frowned. The name sounded familiar, but he could not recall the individual. The subordinate hurriedly said, "He is Tuoba Yes' younger brother, but he is not as strong as his older brother. He is a colonel in the Een Tomb Guards." Guyen nodded. "Ah, he's the younger brother of Tuobiyu." He knew Tuobiyu. This person was a famed expert among the Een Tomb Guards. The 3 Serene Shin sword the other had created was unique. In the Nether Realm, there were only a few that cultivated sword scriptures. This person was outstanding in talent, and only in love with sword scriptures. After he created the 3 Serene Shin sword, his fame rose. He was recruited by the Een Tomb Guards, and he had had great accomplishments in these years. Thinking about the rumors about Tuobiyu, Guyen laughed. "Tuobiyu will not let this rest. We will just watch. As for the Wuga city envoy, tell him I wish to consider our response and have him wait a few days." "Yes," the subordinate acknowledged. In the inky black pool, the medicinal fluid moved as though it was alive. A strange field of power covered the entire pool, and did not let any presence of the pool escape. Silly Bird's eyes were narrowed as she laid by the side of the pool, as though she was napping. Lil Pagoda, Lil Black and Lil Fire played happily by the side. The 3 had greatly changed in appearance. Lil Pagoda's Inyang fish eyes had disappeared. Right now, its body was snowy white with black eaves. It was still round and fleshy. There was a clear pearl at the top that was the size of a thumb, and there seemed to be a black mist that roiled inside the bead. Lil Fire had consumed an unknown amount of void skyly fire in the endless void. Chun Yu Chung had Lil Fire cultivate the fire heartbone refining art. Having consumed countless void skyly fire, Lil Fire had cultivated the fire heartbone refining art to a deep level. However, this didn't seem to be of any use except making Lil Fire even rounder and bouncier. But this did not ruin Lil Fire's mood to play. It bounced like a rubber ball. Its best play partner was Lil Pagoda. The game the two liked to play the most was juggling. Lil Pagoda would jump up, and then Lil Fire would keep bouncing off Lil Pagoda from all angles, so that Lil Pagoda would not fall back to the ground. Lil Black was much larger than in the past. It was now about half a palm large. The 2 antennae moved constantly. It moved quickly like a wisp of black smoke. 10th grade Sunshine, the Black Gold Seal Soldier, and the Ghost Mist Child were all in deep slumber. In the endless void, the little ones had taken turns to protect Swa-Mo. The materials in the endless void were too high in grade for them. They needed a lot of time to absorb each one. Suddenly, Silly Bird opened her eyes. The black medicinal pool roiled, and a figure slowly floated out of the surface. The Sunshin glyph slid back into Zwomo's body. He slowly exhaled and opened his eyes to show a satisfied expression. Using the medicinal pool to repair his body was much better than just absorbing Shin power and other powers. He had used almost all of the high-level materials in Wuga City's stores. For his present level, only those high-level materials were useful. The nether ghost Een heavy wood that Old Man Wu had presented had been crucial. It was not of ordinary quality, and was full of nether energy, but it also had the ability to create vitality and unexpected property. Nether energy was death energy. However, this meant that any thread of vitality formed in such thick death energy was pure. This extremely pure thread of vitality was a great aid to Zwomo's damaged body. In order to completely use the nether ghost Een heavy wood to its fullest effect, Zwo had created this medicinal pool. This thread of vitality could match 1 month's effect of the Shun glyphs. It astounded Zuemo. Zuemo rose from the medicinal pool and had a small smile. The little ones that were playing immediately floated over when they saw Zuemo come out. They brushed against Zuemo and played with him for a while before leaving the room. Outside the mansion, Qing Xiao was teaching the 10 Wu clan youths. Darren. Old Man Wu hurriedly came over to welcome him. Zuemo waved his hand and motioned that he wished to watch on his own. The youths looked at Qing Xiao with gazes full of respect and awe. News of Qing Xiao's powerful display had spread through Wuge City. Everyone knew. Qing Xiao's teaching method was simple. He would teach them the Shun methodology and then use real combat to explain. A short time later, the youths all had dusty faces. But these Wu clan youths were not dispirited. They could clearly feel that the Shun methodology that Qing Xiao Darren had taught them was much stronger than the Shun methodology that they cultivated. The 10 servants that had been selected were staying far away. In the Nether Realm, eavesdropping and attempting to secretly learn the skills of others was a taboo. Qing Xiao had never taught before, but he was serious when he did. If he could not explain it clearly, he would just demonstrate. Yet after Zuemo watched for a while, he found that even though Qing Xiao taught seriously, and the Wu clan disciples were concentrating, the effect was not very good. After some thought, Zuemo understood. Qing Xiao was strong, but he did not have a great understanding of Nether Shun power. These youths were not old, but they had a base in cultivating Nether Shun power. Being forced to cultivate another Shun methodology greatly diminished any effect. He clapped his hand. Stop for a second. Qing Xiao and the Wu clan members stopped. Zuemo pointed randomly at one of the Wu clan members. Demonstrate what you usually cultivate for me. When this Wu family disciple heard this, he started to demonstrate the Wu clan's Wu Gushin methodology. It could be seen that this disciple worked hard on his cultivation, and he was practiced in his demonstration. Zuemo watched for a while before indicating for the demonstration to stop. Then he started to move, each action extremely slow and without Shun power. However, each move and action was filled with terrifying power. The Wu clan disciples' mouths gaped and eyes wide. They hadn't thought that the Wu Gushin methodology would have such power. As Zuemo demonstrated, he explained. Every Wu clan disciple focused with the utmost concentration in fear of missing a word. They found that the Wu Gushin methodology that Darren spoke on was not the same as what they were cultivating had Darren cultivated Wu Gushin methodology in the past. Old Man Wu was completely stunned where he stood. He had cultivated Wu Gushin methodology the longest. The Wu clan leader who had created this Shun methodology had passed away, and Old Man Wu was the person with the greatest skill at Wu Gushin methodology in the clan. The explanations by Darren seemed to clear his mind. Many places he had been puzzled by were cleared up. He was overjoyed, but he did not dare to be careless. He opened his ears and listened carefully. Zuemo spoke for about 2 hours on the entire Wu Gushin methodology. He spoke from beginning to end and changed many places. The new Wu Gushin methodology was completely transformed, their cultivation efficiency and power greatly increasing. Old Man Wu had been immersed in it for many years and knew that this new Wu Gushin methodology would be able to make it into the top class of Shun methodologies in the Nether Realm. With this completely new Wu Gushin methodology, the Wu family would definitely prosper. Old Man Wu's face was covered in tears. He couldn't help but cry at having his dream of many years come true. When Zuemo finished his lecture, Old Man Wu prostrated himself on the ground and kowtowed. He sobbed. The Wu family will follow Darren for your grace of recreating us. Zuemo jumped in fright and helped the other back up. Just a minor matter, there is no need for this. The creator of the Wu Gushin methodology had been limited by their own cultivation. The fundamentals of this Shun methodology were very weak. Zuemo had changed many places, but the core of the Shun methodology had not changed. If even the core was changed, then this Shun methodology would not be the Wu Gushin methodology. It would then be better to give them a new methodology. Zuemo had just leveled up the Wu Gushin methodology to use it to its full potential. Something like this was not a matter that Zuemo thought too much of. Mo did not conceal this and honestly told all of this to Old Man Wu. Old Man Wu shook his head and said, "The Wu clan is not a large clan. If we have an extremely good Shen methodology, it will not bring prosperity to the Wu family but calamity. The Wu Gushin methodology that Darren has remade is the best Shen methodology for the Wu family." Mo had a new opinion of Old Man Wu. Old Man Wu was not strong, but his foresight was great. He was perceptive. This was a talented person. Mo always desired talent. "It is good that you can think like this," Mo said with a smile. He then thought of another question. Where can I buy materials like the nether ghost in heavywood? If he could have more of those materials, Mo's problem of repairing his body would drastically shorten in time. Old Man Wu shook his head. This subordinate accidentally obtained that nether ghost in heavywood. It is hard to buy a material like that on the market. If someone has it, they would carefully keep it hidden away. Is there not a market for high-level materials? Mo asked. He had a lot of things that were valuable, but these things were not valuable to repairing his body, so he did not urgently need them. If he could trade them for things like the nether ghost in heavywood, it would be good for Mo. Old Man Wu had a thoughtful expression. This Jie does not have one, but this subordinate heard that in nether insect Jie, there is a place called the Peerless Market which only does high-level material business. Maybe Darren could go there to see. Mo had a Jie map of the nether realm. The nether insect Jie was not far from Wuge City. He noted it down. Just at this time, the ground under his feet trembled minutely. Mo suddenly raised his head, a cold smirk at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 858. Qing Xiao, this is Wuge City? Tuobayu raised his head to look at the nearby city and asked expressionlessly. He carried a black broadsword on his back. The three-eyed metal-spiked beast under him growled. Its three red eyes flashed with a vicious light. The armor that covered it shimmered with a metallic sheen. Its short and strong legs meant it was extremely steady even when it was sprinting. Yes, the subordinate hurriedly said. Tuobaye's guards were all strong and brave. They had aloof expressions as they sat on moving on the Mo steeds. With a glance, it could be seen that they were battle-hardened elites. Tuobayu had personally chosen these 500 guards. His personality was fiery, bloodthirsty and battle-hungry. These 500 guards were the same as him. They never feared battle. Whenever the offensive forces encountered a setback, it would be their turn to arrive onto the stage. Do not leave even one of the Wu clan alive, Tuobayu said coldly. No one spoke, but the eyes of the guards immediately flashed a bloodthirsty red. Once Tuoba Darren gave the order for a massacre, it meant that they could start to kill in large numbers. Tuobayu lightly urged on the three-eyed spiked beast under him. The three-eyed spiked beast suddenly bent down low and then sprinted out. Almost at the same time, 500 Mo steeds advanced. The three-eyed spiked beast was enormous and heavy like a small mountain. The noise it made when it sprinted was astounding. The 500 Mo steeds were all nightmare fire nether horses. They had strong legs, metal hooves. Their gallop was fast, and when their hooves hit the ground, it was like the rumbling of a thunderstorm. The earth trembled. The booming rumble seemed to come from the ground, deep and with a heart-shaking power. The sharp alarms of Wuge City tore through the sky. The 500 Mo steeds were like an unstoppable iron flood. They were extremely fast, and the packed rattle of the hooves seemed to be striking at people's hearts and minds. It was suffocating. The battle general at the front suddenly raised the black broadsword. Great murderousness gathered on that upraised black broadsword. A layer of gray suddenly shrouded the black broadsword. The murderousness suddenly disappeared, but the strange feeling of emptiness was the calm before the storm. The black sword swung down. Hiss! A gray sword energy charged in front of the city guards at a speed hard for the naked eye to catch. It reflected on the shocked expressions of the guards. Boom! The city gates and walls of Wuge City shattered under the sword energy. An enormous gap the width of 20 zhang suddenly appeared. The Mo steed flood charged in with an unstoppable momentum. The Mo steeds did not slow down when they entered the city. They were like a sharp sword that penetrated directly. The three-eyed spiked beast and the nightmare fire nether beasts were astoundingly powerful. The hard and regular stone brick paths shattered like a crisp biscuit under their hooves. Rubble flew everywhere. The ground was plowed up wherever they passed. All of Wuxia City trembled. The killing intent that Tuoba felt reached a peak after continuously accumulating all this time. He suddenly shouted, "Kill! Kill!" The 500 guards shouted angrily. The tangible killing intent swept outwards like a storm that lost control. In front of such savage killing intent, the residents of Wuxia City were minuscule. They were pale and trembled as their minds turned blank. The city master's mansion entered their view. That was their goal. The guards' presence continued to rise. They hunched over on their mounts, their speed increasing again. They needed to use this unstoppable charge to smash this mansion into dust. At this time, Tuoba's pupils suddenly contracted. A youth stood in front of the gates of the mansion. The youth was surrounded by empty space. He was alone. For some reason, Tuoba suddenly had a strong feeling of danger. His instincts that had formed through numerous life and death battle caused his to instinctively raise the black broadsword. "Kill!" His voice like thunder, the sword fell down. "Kill!" The guards shouted together, their shin power vibrating at the same time. Countless energies gathered towards Tuoba's falling black broadsword at a speed impossible to catch with the naked eye. A strange gray energy appeared on the black broadsword. Tuoba's unique three-nether shin sword. The gray sword energy howled as it charged towards the youth standing in front of the gates. A layer of red appeared on the outside of the gray sword energy, as though there were countless wraiths screaming and wailing inside the sword energy. The people who were watching this battle from the distance paled. This gray sword energy seemed to have an eerie attraction. When one looked, they felt as though their mind was about to be pulled into this sword energy. Most of them had heard of Tuoba's name in the past. When they saw him today, their feeling was multiple times as strong. The middle-aged man and the androgynous male were ashen. The two of them represented the two prominent families of Wuxia City. They had their plans, but when they saw such an astounding sword strike, they found that their thoughts were so laughable in front of such absolute power. The Tomb guards were too strong. Tuoba with his 500 soldiers were enough to flatten Wuxia City. During their shock, a green light suddenly lit up in their view. Qing Xiao's eyes flashed with excitement. He didn't feel any fear as he stared down the raging flood in front of him. It caused his blood to boil, and his fighting spirit to rise. Qing Xiao had witnessed the battle between Chief Elder against Big Brother and the others. That battle could be considered the greatest battle in 10,000 years. Its effect on Qing Xiao would last through his entire life. When he struggled alongside Zuo in the endless void, Qing Xiao had progressed astounding fast. Zuomo's unreserved teaching, in addition to the harsh conditions of the endless voice, made for optimal training conditions. However, in the endless void, Qing Xiao did not have anyone else to spar with or compete with. Qing Xiao was at a spirited age. Adding on that black gold, the ghost Mistchild and the others frequently regaled him of Zuo and Wei Sheng's accomplishments in their younger days. Qing Xiao yearned to experience something like it. A newborn calf did not fear the tiger. Qing Xiao was undoubtedly the newborn calf. He didn't feel any fear at all. Old Man Wu said Tuoba was a famed expert. Qing Xiao wanted to be like Big Brother and Teacher Wei, his idols. Qing Xiao's thought was simple and modest. Defeat Tuoba. The green pulse string stretched comfortably in the air. Qing Xiao's expression was solemn and attentive. He stared closely at the Mo steed flood that was racing towards him. His expression was unmoving like granite. When Tuoba swung his sword with the momentum of 500 Mo steeds, Qing Xiao's eyes suddenly lit up. His left leg moved forward, his legs moving into an arch as he sank down, his hands pushing forward slightly. Green thin vine. Tens of thousands of hearts united together. Protect my clansmen. In a light murmur, the song of the Greenvine clan seemed to revive, stepping out of that ancient era. The green pulse string in the sky seemed to hear a summons and flew rapidly towards Qing Xiao's hand. The hair-thin green string vine immediately wove into a wall of vines. Green light flowed from Qing Xiao's hands and quickly shrouded the vine wall. The flowing green light did not stop after completely covering the wall of vines. The wall seemed to be nourished, sprouting new buds. The buds grew and spread. In a blink, a verdant green wall of vines formed. Inside the mansion of the city master, Zuo fell into a slight daze after hearing Qing Xiao's murmur. He couldn't help but think of Big Brother Qing Lin. If Big Brother Qing Lin was still alive, he would be comforted if he saw Qing Xiao today. The clan of the Green Vine would continue in Qing Xiao. The sword energy filled with destruction smashed into the wall of vines. The sword energy suddenly split apart. Boom. A burning ball of light rose and covered the wall of vines. How could a blow that carried the power of 500 people be stopped so easily? The blinding light penetrated through the cracks in the wall of vines. Qing Xiao felt his hands grow heavy. The verdant green wall seemed to be in danger of collapsing. He took a deep breath, green light growing in his eyes as the Shen power in his body flooded into the wall of vines. In the endless void, every battle was extremely difficult. With Qin Xiao's cultivation, he would not have survived in the endless void, if not for Zuo and Silly Bird's protection. 10 years had passed. While he was still unable to survive in the endless void alone, he could hold his own and participate in the cruel and hard battles. All of the monsters they encountered in the endless void were stronger than he was. This meant that in every one of his battles, the enemy had the upper hand. He was not the only one that was always at a disadvantage. All of the little ones, with the exception of Silly Bird, occasionally were at a disadvantage. In these disadvantageous fights, he and the little ones continued to struggle to win. Fighting so hard for so long meant that his ability to resist and endure was astounding. While he felt enormous pressure, this kind of pressure wasn't on the same level as the fights he encountered in the endless void. The green energy lighting his eyes aglow. Qing Xiao did not reserve any of his Shen power. The sword energy that had exploded had been furiously cutting at the wall of vines. Countless branches flew around. Just as the wall of vines appeared as though it was about to be penetrated by the sword energy, countless new buds suddenly sprouted where the wall had been cut. The new buds grew furiously. The sword energy constantly cut at these newborn leaves, but the new buds grew so quickly. When the light of the sword energy had grown dim, the heavily damaged wall of vines was still growing and repairing. The marks grew fainter and fainter. The furious growth was not just to stop the sword energy. The wall of vines was spreading into the surroundings. When the sword energy dissipated, a large wall of vines about 50 zhang wide and 100 zhang high stood in front of them. It cast an enormous shadow over a large part of Wuxia city, and also covered Tuobayu and his 500 guards that were charging over. Tuobayu only felt the light dimming of the light. The enormous shadow completely covered them. His expression suddenly changed. They had kicked a wall this time. He had never encountered someone that could stop his sword strike, which gathered the power of 500 with just their own power. He had never encountered such a terrifying wall of vines. How could an expert of this level appear at the little Wuxia city? The enormous shadow covered the sun. He suddenly felt the shadow from above was like a bottomless enormous maw that was about to swallow them. Almost instinctively, he realized the danger. At this time, a shout came from ahead. Go! That terrifyingly large and tall wall started to press on them. The shadow covered them. Suddenly, they were unable to move, as though they were being restrained by countless vines. They could only watch as the wall of vines pressed closer to them. Trap. This definitely was a trap. This was the only thought in Tuobayu's mind before he was consumed by darkness. Chapter 859. Lan Bing. In these tense times, any political shifts would be quickly magnified. The secret struggle between the Yin Tomb Guards and the Northern Plains Ice Mansion seemed motionless, but there were countless eyes observing from the shadows. Tuobayu could not be considered a top expert in the Nether Realm. He might not even be called a top-tier expert. However, he was a strong fighter, and one of the best of the Yin Tomb Guards. Many people had heard of his name. But such a famed fighter, leading 500 riders, was defeated in one move by an unknown youth. Qing Xiao quickly became famous. Anyone with some knowledge understood just how powerful this youth was to have defeated Tuobayu and his 500 head-on. The Mo were the most skilled at using other people's power as their own. With the Shen power of 500 people gathered on Tuobayu, Tuobayu was comparable to a true first-class expert. But Tuobayu was still defeated. What level was someone that could defeat a first-class expert? With one move? This youth that had suddenly appeared was young but had such great power. How could people not be astonished? The white-haired youth dragging the coffins, the grand gold chariot. A powerful youth with a strange green vine. This pair seemed to give off a mysterious aura, no matter what aspect you looked at. Both Swaemo and Qing Xiao did not think much of this battle. For them, an enemy of Tuoba's level was not enough to disturb them. Swaemo focused his time on repairing his body. That nether ghost in heavy wood was extremely effective, and Swaemo began to search for similar materials. Old Man Wu had abilities in this area. If it was something Swaemo ordered, he would always complete the order in outstanding fashion. According to the information he gathered, the borders of the Nether Realm had all been locked down. This was an order that all 4 Nether Lords had sent down together. Before the successor to the king was chosen, the lockdown would not be lifted. Swaemo could be patient. Since he was unable to communicate with Mo Cloud Sea in the near future, he would first think of ways to recover his Shun power. If his Shun power recovered, the lockdown would not be a big problem to him. The effects of Qing Xiao defeating Tuoba. You were slightly unexpected to Swaemo. Nothing further had to be said of the Wu clan. Old Man Wu knew very well that if it wasn't for Darren, the Wu clan would have been killed off. He was even more faithful now. This battle also intimidated the other factions of Wu Gu City. Qing Xiao's great fighting ability caused them to become even more wary. When they heard that Swaemo needed high-level materials, all of the families sent some materials. Soon the materials that were sent were piled into a small mountain. However, there was only one of these materials that was of use to Swaemo. It was also not high in quality, but even the smallest mosquito was still meat. Swaemo used it. It equaled 5 days of recovery. Swaemo knew how to conduct business. He would give back Shin equipment to those that sent him materials. For him, forging Shin equipment did not waste any of his energy. All of the Shin equipment were suited to channeling Nether Shin power, and were not of low level. Clever people were everywhere. Gupeng had gone along with the crowd and sent some materials. The Gu family was only a small faction here, and only had some small properties. Gupeng had not wanted to send anything, but seeing everyone else do it, he thought he should send something as well. He had seen that battle with his own eyes. Qing Xiao's great power struck him with fear. Gupeng received a gift in return. This surprised him. It seemed that the elder was an amiable person. Gupeng did not care. Usually, gifts sent in return were to represent the other's friendliness and of little value. The gift itself would not be worth much. Gupeng's heart came to rest. Having given out gifts today, at least, it meant that the city master and others would not make trouble for them. Only after he returned home, finishing dinner, he was bored. Only then did he remember the gift he had received earlier in the day. He casually opened the box and was stunned. A grand Shun equipment was lying silently in the box. Gupeng dazedly picked up the Shun equipment. When it entered his hand, a cold feeling came from the Shun equipment. Gupeng was in the business, and his eyes were experienced. Icy blue nether stone that had exquisitely carved flower patterns. These were blue nether glyphs that would only appear when blue nether stone was perfectly forged. The pulped gold that was woven through were hair thin. Everyone knew how hard it was to forge pulped gold. How great was the skill was needed to forge such thin strands. There were 3 nether glyphs on the Shun equipment. Good thing. This skill was a great deal higher than the present mainstream Shun equipment. It was a rare masterwork. Almost at first glance, Gupeng judged that the value of this Shun equipment far surpassed the materials he had given out today. If the Shun equipment wasn't being held in his hands, Gupeng would not believe his own eyes. His business was not large, and it was extremely rare to encounter something as fine as this. They would use such valuable Shun equipment as a reciprocal gift? Gupeng suspected that the servant had given him the wrong box. During the night, he tossed and turned as he thought if he should return the Shun equipment or not. He did not sleep the entire night. The next morning, he decided to travel towards the mansion of the city master with red eyes. Yet on the way there, the news he received stunned him. Everyone had received a Shun equipment. How was it possible? This was Gupeng's first reaction. How much money was this? This was Gupeng's second reaction. Soon, the clever Gupeng reacted. A daring idea rose in his mind. The white-haired elder was a forger. He suddenly realized that this might be a chance. He turned and sprinted towards his home with excitement. He had a high-level nether material, like the nether ghost in heavy wood in his home. He was not the only one that realized this. Zhuomo's fishing method was effective. After throwing out the Shen equipment, the amount of materials that were sent to him increased drastically, and there was a clear rise in grade of the gifts he received. Zhuomo was not frugal with the Shen equipment. The higher the grade of material, the higher the grade of Shen equipment he gave back. However, not every nether material fulfilled Zhuomo's requirements. Other people did not know what Zhuomo really needed. There was only a rare few among the majority of materials similar to the nether ghost in heavy wood that had a thread of vitality. Zhuomo searched through the haystack to finally find two that could be used. One of them was a bone, the other a rotten piece of wood. Both of them contained a thread of vitality. Zhuomo put them into the medicinal pool. They equaled 15 days of effort. He had stayed in Wuxia City for 10 days and didn't waste even one day. He used them all to cultivate. He could get 50 days of effort by using nether materials with the medicinal poo. In other words, in these 10 days, he had obtained 2 months of recovery. His body needed about 3 years to recover. That was 36 months. He had completed 1/18. He could clearly feel the recovery of his body. Zhuomo immediately realized the best way to recover as fast as possible was to get materials like the nether ghost in heavy wood. He used all of the other materials to forge Shen equipment. His forging skill was great, and he almost didn't spend anything in forging Shen equipment. He also used a very small amount of materials. But there were also problems. Zhuomo found that the concentration of nether energy near Wuxia City had decreased drastically. He had created this problem by himself. The Shen formations on the chariot constantly took in the nether energy and Ling power from the air to turn into Shen power. This was just the Shen formations. If Zhuomo's body recovered, he could suck all of the Ling power and nether energy, including all vitality, in a breath. That was God level. The amount of power near Wuxia City greatly decreasing meant that Zhuomo's recovery speed would slow down. There was no earth fire near Wuxia City. Otherwise, Zhuomo could absorb fire essence to turn into Shen power. Did he have to change locations already? Zhuomo frowned. He had been planning to use the black nether, or to trade for a batch of materials from the Yin tomb guards. Suddenly, Old Man Wu hurriedly came in with an excited face. Darren. What is it? Zhuomo asked without raising his head. An envoy from Hai Xian Bing Darren asks for an audience. Old Man Wu hurriedly said. Oh. Zhuomo had coincidentally finished forging the Shen equipment in his hand. He raised his head and said, then have him come in. Hai Xian Bing's envoy was a female. The female's appearance was normal but her figure beautiful, and her presence was clear and ethereal. She bowed towards Zhuomo. This lowly female Lanbing greets Darren. She had a smile on her face that had a strange approachability. The Nether Lord heard that our mansion had been disrespectful to Elder regarding the matter of the Black Nether Mine. We are greatly apologetic. These 3 Nether Ghost in Heavy Wood are part of the Nether Lord's collection. She heard that Elder needs them and ordered this attendant to deliver them as fast as possible to express our intentions. She opened the metal box next to her. 3 pieces of Nether Ghost in Heavy Wood were in there. Zhuomo's eyes immediately lit up. He could clearly feel that each piece of Nether Ghost in Heavy Wood had an extremely pure strand of vitality. 1 piece of Nether Ghost in Heavy Wood equaled 1 month of effort. 3 pieces were equivalent to 3 months. Good things. Hai Xian Bing, as expected of a Nether Lord, was so grand with her opening move. For other people, even on piece of Nether Ghost in Heavy Wood was so hard to obtain. She easily took out 3 pieces. One had to know that not every Nether Ghost in Heavy Wood could form a thread of vitality. Vitality formed from Nether energy was an extremely rare event to start with. Yet, all 3 pieces of Nether Ghost in Heavy Wood had formed a thread of vitality. They were of great use to Zhuo Bing. Lan noticed the change in Zhuomo's expression and gave a small smile. As expected, Zhuo nodded. Thank Nether Lord Hai Xian Bing for me. He waved his hand and the 3 pieces of Nether Ghost In Heavywood flew into his embrace. If the Netherlord knows that Elder likes these items, she would be overjoyed, Bing Lan said with a smile and then changed the topic. I heard that Elder is skilled in forging Shin equipment. Could Elder broaden Junior's vision? Zhuo knew the real reason for Lan Bing's visit had come. Chapter 860, Transaction Yes. Zhuo had an open expression as he said honestly. Zhuo was immediately filled with desire towards the Northern Plains Ice Mansion's treasures after seeing the 3 pieces of Nether Ghost In Heavywood. He even questioned whether or not to rob them if negotiations failed. But if the request was forging Shun equipment, it would be even better. While his Shun power was almost non-existent, his god level was still present. His control of fire was unrivaled. His access OT Sunshin Fire, Silly Bird's Phoenix Flames, Lil Fire's Void Skyly Fire, meant he had 3 kinds of Shun Fire to work with. Such a great setup, with so many types of Shun Fire. If this was made public, it would frighten people to death. So Zhuo was very calm. With his present condition, he might not succeed in robbing them, but no one would be able to surpass him in forging. Could Elder forge Shin devices for us? Lan Bing's gaze was bright. As Zhuo had expected, the Northern Plains Ice Mansion had given the generous gift in an attempt to obtain Shin devices. It depends on what materials you have. Zhuo didn't even move from his sitting position as he glanced at Lan Bing. Without good materials, no Shin device can be forged. Lan Bing laughed softly. Elder, you do not have to worry about materials. The Northern Plains Ice Mansion is not the richest of the Nether Realm, but does have the materials to forge a Shin device. Oh, Zhuo suddenly said. If I remember correctly, the Nether Realm doesn't have a Shin device. Elder really is not from the Nether Realm. Lan Bing said pointedly. Zhuo did not dodge Lan Bing's gaze and said with a snicker. I'm not, but what does that have to do with anything? Lan Bing realized her rashness and hurriedly bowed in apology. This lowly female was impolite. The other was right. If he could forge Shin devices, it didn't matter if he was from the Nether Realm or not. No one would make trouble for him. Even if he couldn't forge Shin devices, just his skill at forging Shin equipment meant that no one would make a fuss of his background. The Nether Realm was remote, and even their communication with the Jia of the 100 Savage Realm was limited. Their communication with the Yao and Xiuzha realms were even more rare. The Mo were not skilled in forging, and the Nether Realm was the same. The Shun equipment of the Xiuzha world could greatly increase offensive strength. They continued to flow to the Yaoma. The 2 races quickly found that the Shun equipment was effective for them as well. The Yaoma started to study the forging methods of the Xiuzha, but the Xiuzha had accumulated expertise over many millennia. How could it be so easy to learn? The Yaoma had found large numbers of forgers with skill to teach them forging, but the Shun equipment that they forged was lacking compared to the Xiuzha. Zhuo hadn't put much thought into forging Shin equipment he gave out as gifts. He had only forged casually based on his habits. The abilities of these Shun equipment was a great deal better than the Nether Realm Shin equipment on the market. Zhuo didn't know that the Shin equipment that he had given out rose in price every day. The Northern Plains Ice Mansion was the fastest to act. Zhuo waved his hand and said carelessly, no matter. Just for these 3 pieces of Nether Ghost In Heavywood, I will give you some articles of Shin equipment if you want. A few dozen is also alright. If you want a Shin device, then you need to prepare the materials and pay the price first. Lan Bing liked this kind of straightforward style and immediately asked, how much payment does Elder want? 50 pieces of Nether Ghost In Heavywood of this quality. Zhuo had an honest expression. Lan Bing was slightly surprised. She had heard before that the white-haired elder had been searching for the Nether Ghost In Heavywood, so she had picked 3 of good quality. She hadn't thought that this elder would need so much Nether Ghost In Heavywood. The Nether Ghost In Heavywood was rare. Even the Northern Plains Ice Mansion didn't have 50 pieces, much less 50 of such quality. But honestly, it was not expensive if they traded 50 pieces of nether ghost in heavywood for the other to forge a Shen device. It was only slightly troublesome. May other materials be used as substitutes? Lan Bing asked cautiously. Zuo heard this. This was plausible. He was joyed, but he did not change expression. Tomb ghost bone crystal, rotten lifewood, yellow spring lotus, they all work, but have to also be of high quality. Lan Bing calculated inside. With 3 more types of materials to choose from, it was much easier to gather 50 items. All right. But it will take time to gather these materials. Elder, please wait for a while. Lan Bing unhesitatingly agreed. Zuo knew as well that it would not be an easy matter to gather so many materials, but little Mo Gu was a clever person. He said, "That's fine, bring as much as you can. The forging of a Shen device is not so easy, it also requires time." Lan Bing did not doubt him. She had never seen a Shen device forged and naturally didn't know the process. But Shen devices were rare, and it definitely would be the product of more than a day's work. With this assumption, Lan Bing nodded and said, "No problem." Zuo was overjoyed. If he could really get these materials, his recovery would be complete in no time. Lan Bing suddenly said, "It is embarrassing to speak of, but our mansion does not have a forging department. We have more than 30,000 forgers, but their skill is about the same. The reason is that they always have lacked a master to learn from. If Elder is willing to be the head of the forging department, the payment can be negotiated." Lan Bing looked as though she was willing to pay a great price. Zuo was slightly surprised. 30,000 forgers. This was not a small number. 10 years ago, Mo Cloud C's forgers would not have much more than this number. Zuo knew that the expenses in training forger was high. If Mo Cloud C hadn't just managed to catch the market at that time, when Mo Cloud C Shen equipment did not lack demand, it would not have been so simple to train so many forgers. Northern Plains Ice Mansion was willing to train forgers and set up a special department. Hai Xian Bing had foresight. Zuo suddenly realized that maybe Northern Plains Ice Mansion could possibly become Mo Cloud C's enemy. His mind moved, and an expression of interest rose on his face. "Oh, a forging department, then let's go see." Seeing Zuo interested, Lan Bing became joyous. Forging a Shen device was far from being as profitable as recruiting a forging grandmaster. Lan Bing decided that no matter what, she had to keep this forging grandmaster at the Northern Plains Ice Mansion. "That's great. If the Lord knows that Elder is about to come to our mansion, she would be overjoyed," Lan Bing said happily. Zuo glanced at Old Man Wu at the side and suddenly asked, "Old Wu, how many people are in the Wu family?" "Darren, 270. Old Man hurriedly answered. "Then have them pack up and accompany me," Zuo said. "Yes." Old Man Wu became alert. He had been worried that if the clan stayed in Wuga City, the Yin Tomb Guard would come find them for revenge. Zuo then said to Lan Bing, "I will not dance around the matter of the Black Nether Mine. I want to sell it to the Northern Plains Ice Mansion." "No problem." Lan Bing did not hesitate before accepting. "We are willing to purchase it at 30% above market price. Elder, what do you think?" "All right." Zuo nodded. "Elder, do you want nether cash or materials?" Lan Bing then asked. "Materials," Zuo said. Lan Bing was not surprised by this answer. The obsession forgers had with materials was something hard for others to understand. "Darren, what about Tuoba Yu and the others?" Old Man Wu asked respectfully. Zuo sank into thought. That group of people was a bother. Lan Bing saw this and said, "If Elder feels that it is not easy to take care of, how about handing them over to our forces?" Zuo felt that this suggestion was good and agreed. After hearing that Zuo was willing to travel to the Northern Plains Ice Mansion, the Northern Plains Ice Mansion immediately sent experts traveling day and night to come and escort Zuo's group. The number of guards accompanying them increased greatly. The troop was an enormous one with the Wu clan and the captured Yin Tomb Guards. With the old and infirm of the Wu clan, the troop did not move quickly. Zuo was not in a hurry. He stayed in the chariot every day, and absorbed all kinds of powers along the way to repair his body. Zuemo had almost absorbed all the powers near Wuga City. If he continued to take from them, the Shen formations would start to absorb the vitality of those living near Wuga City. At that time, Wuga City would become a city of death. On the way, as he continued to absorb power from the surroundings, and the 3 pieces of Nether Ghost In Heavywood, Zuemo's body recovered significantly. He had absorbed 2 of the 3 Nether Ghost In Heavywood. That could make up for 2 months of effort. 36 months, that was 36 levels. Zuemo had repaired 4 levels, and he had 1 pieces of Nether Ghost In Heavywood left. Adding on what he absorbed on the trip, when he arrived at the Northern Plains Ice Mansion, he would be able to reach level 6. Zuemo was satisfied with this progress. In the remaining time on the road, he taught the Wu clan youths how to cultivate and battle formations. The Wu clan did not have any experts. If they wanted to protect themselves at this time, they could only rely on battle formations. However, what Zuemo taught them were not the battle formations that battalions used but what guards would frequently use. Other than this, he also forged Shen equipment for them. Each Wu clan youth had a Shen equipment. They were completely attired, and the Northern Plains Ice Manian guards accompanying them were extremely jealous. Take a look, Lan Bing said in a low voice to an armored female next to her, and then handed over a piece of Shen equipment. This female dressed in blue ice armor had a beautiful appearance, but her expression was icy and unapproachable. She sat on the snowy white Northern Plains snow horse, her body upright and unmoving. She held a large blade that was twice the height of a person in her hand. The blade curved in a crescent and the long handle was covered in blue swirling patterns. She was one of the 6 generals of Northern Plains Ice Palace, Zhu Nanyu. She had just returned from the front lines, and was immediately sent by Hai Xian Bing to protect Zuemo's group. Her guards were all females, each of them with solemn expressions. They didn't make any sounds as they marched. Zhu Nanyu and Lan Bing had a close relationship. She carefully looked at the Shen equipment in her hand, and her expression became serious. She looked closely, turning it over and over. She looked for a long time before lifting her head. "How is it?" Lan Bing hurriedly asked. "If I had such Shen equipment, my strength will increase by 2/10." Zhu Nanyu's tone was certain. Lan Bing knew that Zhu Nanyu was a reliable and conservative person. She would not exaggerate. If she said it could increase her strength by 2/10, it would not be less than 2/10, and was likely more effective. "Look at this." Lan Bing handed over another piece of Shen equipment. It was the Shen equipment of the Wu clan. She had used many methods in order to get this Shen equipment. Chapter 861 Entomb Ghost Lord. The Shen equipment was a faded gray and nondescript. Yet when she held it, Zhu Nanyu could not keep her calm. Her eyes widened and she said in disbelief, "This Shen equipment is another system." The 2 Shen equipment were of completely different styles and systems. Any forger who was able to forge in 2 completely different styles of Shen equipment would have great skill. Not just so. I saw those Wu clan members cultivating. This Shen equipment was designed for them. Lan Bing's expression was excited. If a forger like this will work for the Northern Plains Ice Mansion, who can stop us? Zhu Nanyu's beautiful pupils suddenly lit up like a layer of icy flame. Lan Bing's words struck at her heart. The difference between the 4 Nether Lords was very slim. If they could get such a Grandmaster forger, the Northern Plains Ice Mansion would immediately leap ahead of the others. Suddenly, faint rumbling sounded in the sky as though thunder was roiling in the thick clouds. "Darn!" Elder's chariot charged into the clouds. The subordinate urgently said. The 2 paused and couldn't resist but raised their heads to look at the thick clouds. Not good. Zhu Nanyu's expression changed slightly. The thick clouds were a good spot for an ambush. Hai Xian Bing had sent her just to guard against the retribution of the Entomb guards. At this time, the sound of the thunder suddenly rose abruptly. Zhu Nanyu, Lan Bing and the others saw a soul-shaking sight. The thick and endless clouds seemed to suddenly boil. Silver lightning of various sizes streaked through the clouds. The tiny bots of lightning gathered and formed into thick bolts of lightning, and the thick bolts of lightning formed into even brighter lightning. The wild presence of the lightning and thunder could be clearly felt even from the ground. That was a power that was able to tear and destroy everything. Suddenly, the lightning in the clouds suddenly started to contract back towards the center of the clouds. There seemed to be something within the clouds that was absorbing this lightning. In reality, when Zuo saw such thick clouds, he was unable to stop himself. The thicker the clouds, the more lightning energy it held. Even Zuo felt such thick clouds were rare. This was a good chance to replenish his body, and Zuo naturally would not pass it by. He did not hesitate to drive the sun chariot into the cloud layer. The Shen formations on the chariot suddenly lit up. Zuo seemed to have thrown a spark into dry tinder, and the abundant lightning energy was ignited. Lightning of astounding numbers were created in the clouds. Boom boom boom. The sound of the thunder echoed in the clouds. Zuo only saw countless silver snakes fly towards him from all directions to crash onto the chariot. The abundant lightning energy was turned by the Shen formations into Shen power, and the Shen power flowed into his body and the 5 coffins. Zuo immediately sat down with his legs crossed. He focused on guiding the Shen power into his body. Once the Shen power entered Zuo's body, it was like water draining into dry sand. The Shen power sank into his parched flesh and blood. As Zuo breathed, the brimming Shen power in the Shen formations was almost immediately sucked dry. The absorption force of the Shen formation increased greatly. Even lightning in the distance was attracted. The thick lightning bolts hit the chariot like sharp and blinding silver swords. The chariot was surrounded by an astounding amount of lightning, and appeared like a silver hedgehog. With the chariot as the center, the black clouds were collapsing at an astounding rate. Plat plat. Bean-sized droplets of rain smashed down from the sky. The world was immediately filled with moisture and mist. Zhu Nanyu and Lan Bing gaped as they watched the clouds recede like an avalanche from the sky. And that chariot that flashed with lightning like a hedgehog. Zuo hadn't expected to make such a big disturbance this time. The Shen power that came from the Shen formations were more than usual. Soon, all of the clouds turned into rain. When the last bit of lightning energy was sucked into the chariot, the sky was as clear and the sunlight was bright. Zuo's mind suddenly shifted. He turned and looked into the distance. There was someone peeking in from far away. This person was very far away. Zuo could not see their figure, but could feel their existence. He moved his gaze away and controlled the chariot to fly towards the ground. When the chariot that was shrouded in lightning landed on the ground, the lightning was completely absorbed, and the illusion on the chariot broke, showing its original appearance. Hiss! Inhaled sounded. Lan Bing gaped at this grand chariot. She was Hai Xian Bing's right and left hand. She had seen luxury in food and dress from childhood, but never seen such a grand chariot before. Oh, grandness was not enough to describe this chariot. The layers of scripts, like seal scripts and MO matrices. She didn't recognize any of them. But that was not important. These complex patterns were filled with beauty. She didn't know what the chariot was made from. There wasn't any mark of the crafting process on the chariot. The golden flames were domineering and masculine as they flew with the wheels. Lan Bing did not recognize seal formations or did not know forging methods, but she recognized the gems. The chariot was inlaid all over with jewels. Those clear and flawless gems flashed with enchanting ripples. If she took these gems, they were enough to buy a jia. Zhu Nanyu was also shocked. However, it was not due to the grandness of the chariot, but the strong vibrations it gave off. The lightning had shattered Zuo's disguise on the chariot and showed its true appearance. A domineering and heated presence like that of fire, which one could not look directly at. Lan Bing and Zhu Nanyu were silent. Lan Bing found that the situation was not as simple as she had imagined. In her transaction with Zuo, she had this feeling that Zuo was very poor. If she gave a good price, it was almost certain to succeed. Yet when this chariot showed its true appearance, she found that she was wrong, and terribly wrong. The other was not poor. It was the opposite. He was overflowing with wealth. The value of this chariot alone was hard to estimate. She suddenly had no confidence in recruiting this white-haired elder. Zhu Nanyu's expression was slightly ugly. She said in a low voice, "We did not bring enough people." Ah. Lan Bing stilled, but then she understood Zhu Nanyu's meaning. Her expression changed dramatically. You mean he can forge Shin devices? Zhu Nanyu's tone was certain. Lan Bing's expression changed again and again. She had been doubting all this time if the white-haired elder could forge a Shin device or not. She had decided that their previous welcome had been enough to show the importance they placed on this. Yet when she found that the white-haired elder had the ability to forge Shin devices, their escort was too small. Then what to do now? Lan Bing hurriedly asked. Ask for help, Zhu Nanyu said. Far away from Zuomo's group, several figures appeared. The one at the front was dressed in black robes. His face was stiff like that of a zombie. Such profit. We did not waste our effort. A person covered in Yin energy spoke. His voice was dark and malicious, which caused people to feel a cold wave up their backs. As expected, this person can forge Shin devices. A completely white skeleton suddenly spoke, the two balls of ghost fire flickering in the two empty eye sockets. The black-robed zombie said woodenly, "Let's go." The 6 figures disappeared in the air like smoke. And, inside the chariot, Zuomo felt something and raised his head. Almost at the same time, Zhu Nanyu's shout came from outside. Enemy attack. Formations. They came so quickly. Zuomo was startled. He had just felt someone observing from far away, and hadn't expected them to come so quickly and so openly. This meant that the arrivals had absolute confidence in their strength. He stepped out of the chariot and coincidentally saw 6 figures slowly appear out of mist. Qing Xiao stood with a wary expression next to Zuomo. His expression was solemn. He could feel the incomers were of great power. People like Tuoba, you could not compare to this. When Zhu Nanyu saw these 6 figures, her pupils suddenly contracted. Yin Tomb Ghost Lords. Hearing these 4 words, Lan Bing's face turned white, and the guards in their formation shifted. Little child has good eyes, the black-robed zombie slowly spoke. His voice was dry and dissonant like 2 plants of wood rubbing together. Zhu Nanyu's gaze moved around and her heart continued to sink. That completely snowy white skeleton was Gu Wushuang, one of the most famed experts of the Yin Tomb Guards. That figure completely covered in black smoke was called He Wu and of unfathomable power. That person covered completely in cloth and gave off great death energy, which caused Zhu Nanyu to feel waves of nausea, should be Buru Mian. The one completely green was Sidu, the one dressed in red and wore a cloak and silk veil was Mo Ru. All 5 Yin Tomb ghosts were present. The Yin Tomb 5 ghosts were the 5 strongest members of the Yin Tomb Guards. Each of them could rival Zhu Nanyu. The Northern Plains Ice Mansion had had friction with the Yin Tomb Guards frequently in the past, but they had never had a conflict of this level. Zuomo was also surprised as well. The Yin Tomb Guards were much stronger than he had expected. These 6 people were stronger than even his group back in the day. Each of these 6 were not weaker than Qing Xiao. Zuomo could feel that black-robed zombie was not far from reaching god level. Zuomo did not worry about his own safety, but only worried about the 5 coffins on the chariot being disturbed. Zhu Nanyu was shocked, but she forced herself to remain calm on the surface. She said gravely, "Ghost Lord, why are you blocking my path? This one, under the orders of the Mansion Lord, is protecting an honored guest of the Northern Plains Ice Mansion." The black-robed zombie ignored her. His gaze swept across the group, and then landed on Zuomo. He bowed slightly. "I apologize to Grandmaster on behalf of Tuoba Yu and the others." Zuomo glanced at the other and said, "Just a minor matter, you are too polite. I heard that Sir has been searching for the nether ghost Yin Heavywood." The black-robed zombie's voice was still as dissonant and displeasing to hear. "These 5 pieces of nether ghost Yin Heavy would represent our sincere apology. Also, I want to request Grandmaster to forge Shin devices for us. Our offer will not be any lower than the Northern Plains Ice Mansion." Zhu Nanyu and Lan Bing's faces were bloodless. "I hear that Grandmaster is also interested in corpse forging. The death energy pools of our Yin Tomb Guards are the best." When He Wu opened his mouth, the temperature of the surroundings dropped greatly, and became filled with Yin energy. Death energy pool. Zuomo's heart jumped. Chapter 862 Bashan Power. In terms of accumulated wealth, the Tomb Guards could not compete with the other factions, but when it came to death energy and nether materials, none were greater than the Tomb Guards. Heiwa's dark voice was filled with temptation. Elder. Lanbing couldn't help but call. At this time, an extremely dark and cold presence rolled over her, and she found to her shock that she was unable to speak. Mo did not pay attention to Lanbing. He did not care who he did business with. What he cared about was healing his body as quickly as possible and awakening everyone. The death energy pools were very attractive to Mo, 50 high-quality pieces of nether ghost in heavywood. Mo did not hesitate and said directly, Tomb Ghost Bone Crystal, Rotten Lifewood, Yellow Springs Lotus, they all work, but they have to be of similarly high level. The black-robed zombie said, All right. Lanbing had an expression of anger. Her eyes were wide and her face flushed red as she stared at Mo. But she could not make a sound. Mo did not spare her any attention. He had no relationship to the Northern Plains Ice Mansion. The two were just doing business. Mo did not care who he did business with. What he cared about was repairing his body. In comparison, Zhu Nanyu was much calmer. Her dispiritedness had been swept away, and she recovered her calm. This girl was pretty good. A bit like Tang Fei. Tang Fei was also a person that did not admit defeat like this. When he thought of this, Mo couldn't help but wander into his thoughts. He wondered how Mo Cloud Sea was. The nether realm was closed down tightly, and there was not much information on the outside world. Suddenly, Gu Wu Shuang asked, Is Grandmaster willing to sell this chariot? Mo shook his head. Apologies, not for sale. It did not take much effort to forge this chariot, but he did not want any of the Shen formations on the chariot to leak out. Gu Wu Shuang laughed. It was the first time Mo saw a skeleton laughing eerily in front of him. Mo did not want to waste time. Since the negotiation has concluded, let's go. He then said to Old Man Wu. Have everyone prepare. Old Man Wu seemed to wake up from a dream and hurriedly nodded. Yes. He went to organize the group as he lamented inside. The world changed too quickly. Just now they had been fighting to the death to the Tomb Guards, and now they were working together. Lanbing opened her mouth and was about to speak when Zhu Nanyu pulled her and indicated for her not to. In front of absolute power, speech was never as effective as fists. Unless the Nether Lord arrived with a group of experts at this time, anything said was meaningless. The black-robed zombie admired Mo's briskness. He said expressionlessly, Good. Boss, should we kill them? Buru Mia's voice came from behind the thick cloth wrappings in an unusually muffled manner. Zhu Nanyu's eyes widened. She did not fall back. She gripped the large black in her hand like a panther about to pounce. Lanbing also displayed great fighting spirit. The black-robed zombie said woodenly, Let's go. Then the group was covered in smoke. When the smoke cleared, the Tomb Guards and Mo's group had disappeared. Mo opened his eyes. He finally had absorbed all of the nether ghost in heavywood he had. His body had been repaired to the 11th level, and was almost 1/3 recovered. Mo was content with this level of progress. Rising, he looked at the dark sky outside. The sun would never appear in the sky above the 10,000 tombs of the netherworld. This place was filled with death energy, and there was not one hint of green to be seen. There were bleached bones everywhere. The rivers were as black as ink. There were countless tombs which covered every visible mountain. Qing Xiao did not like this place. He liked places that were sunny and bright. The Wu clan members did not like this place. The nether energy here was filled with the flavor of death. Mo liked this place a lot because he found that the death energy here was very useful to Wei Sheng and the others. He walked out of the room. Qing Xiao was teaching the Wu clan members how to cultivate. The Tomb Guards were very polite towards them and fulfilled all their needs. The Tomb Guards, on average, had better temperaments than Tuobayu, and this made everyone feel much better. Mo did not disturb Qing Xiao. He walked towards the neighboring yard along the corridor. In the yard, 5 little pools roiled with gray mist. These were the death energy pools. The 5 coffins were laid out in the death energy pool. It was possible to see gray mist burrow into the coffins at a visible rate. These 5 coffins were not ordinary. Zuemo had made them of a wondrous tree that grew in the eye of Shen spring he had stumbled upon in the endless void. Zuemo had never seen something with so much vitality. When he saw it, he immediately decided to turn it into coffins. The benefits of everyone being nourished by such strong vitality did not need to be stated. But in the process of making the coffins, Zuemo encountered great difficulties. This tree was unusually hard and it was also difficult to cut. Another unexpected quality was that its regeneration ability was unimaginable. All the wounds on the tree trunk would heal in almost an instant. While cutting the tree and before he managed to withdraw his blade, a flying sword forged from flowing gold sand had been sucked in by the tree. Zuemo tried all kinds of methods. In the end, he used flame knives formed from sunshine fire to slowly carve away. The process had been as slow as a snail. To make these 5 coffins, Zuemo had spent a whole year. With Zuemo's present skill, he wouldn't need 1 year to even forge a Shen device. The strength of the wood could be seen from this. The Shen tree had vitality so thick it almost crystallized. Through the Shen formations, it constantly nourished the bodies of eldest Shixiang, Agui and the others. Everyone's recovery relied on the Shen wood coffins. When Zuemo heard the Yin Tomb Ghost Lord speak of the death energy pools, his attention was attracted. The nether ghost Yin Heavy Wood had given him inspiration. The vitality formed from thick death energy was pure. The Yin Tomb Ghost Lord and the others knew Zuemo's thoughts, so they specifically arranged for a yard with death energy pools. There were tens of thousands of years of tombs accumulated under the 10,000 tombs of the underworld. The legends said that this place had been an enormous mass grave in the ancient era. The layers of tombs caused the death energy in the ground to be so abundant. Some of the death energy would erupt from the ground and formed earth energy pools. For MO like those that forged corpses, the death energy pools were the best places. They could endlessly absorb death energy and turn it into Shen power. The Shen power that the Yin Tomb guards cultivated were unlike the others' factions. Their Shen power was filled with great amounts of nether Shen power, and was astoundingly destructive. Zuemo had originally wanted to see if he could create vitality out of death energy. The nether decay reincarnation lotus that Zuemo had used on Agui had been like that. Yet what he hadn't expected was that the Shenwood coffins could directly absorb death energy. Thesis astonished Zuemo. The Shenwood coffins constantly absorbed death energy. After the death energy was absorbed, it would merge with the vitality of the Shenwood and form a strange new power. The merging of life and death naturally matched, yet was so unpredictable. Zuemo continued to study and quickly found that the power that had formed was slightly like Shen power, but it did not have clear leanings of any attribute. Zuemo called it base Shen power. It was the first time Zuemo encountered Shen power that did not have a type. Usually, Shen power that was cultivated would have a type. For example, the Sun Shen power he cultivated was the classic fire-type Shen power. The base Shen power did not have any type, but it was easily absorbed. Even though eldest Shixiang and the others had almost no ability left in their bodies, the base Shen power could easily meld into their bodies. When the base Shen power melded into the bodies of eldest Shixiang and the others, it was of great help to their recovery. Zuemo was joyfully surprised by this accidental discovery. Even the dark and cloudy 10,000 tombs of the netherworld became much better in his eyes. His body was gradually recovering. As long as there were enough nether ghosteen heavywood, he could quickly repair his body. Once recovered, restoring his Shen power was just a matter of time. But Zuemo could not resolve the problem afflicting eldest Shixiang and the others from the root. He only saw hope when he saw the perfect merging of the death energy pool and the Shenwood coffin which lead to the wondrous effects of the base Shen power. After persisting for 10 years, Zuemo's excitement could be imagined when he saw the light of hope. Everyone, wake up as soon as possible. Zuemo silently thought as he carefully inspected every person, and then the surrounding Jinji before he left. He could not delay the issue of Shen devices any longer. Even Zuemo felt that the Yin Tomb Ghost Lord had been very good to them. At least he had enough patience. From this, it could be seen that the Yin Tomb Ghost Lord had unusual breadth of mind. Unlike the harmony inside the yard, the outside of the yard was heavily guarded. There was a station every 5 paces and a scout every 10. There were troops patrolling everywhere. Someone who was ignorant would think that this was a military base. When Zhuemo walked out of the yard, the guard outside immediately came over. "Grandmaster," Zhuemo said politely, "take me to see the Ghost Lord." The guard hurriedly said, "Yes." Soon, a carriage pulled by 4 nightmare firebone horses appeared in front of Zhuemo. Zhuemo did not refuse and made his way onto the carriage. In the yard, Old Man Wu said urgently to Qing Xiao, "It is okay for Darren to go out alone?" Qing Xiao glanced at Old Man Wu and smiled. "What is wrong?" "Safety." Old Man Wu had an expression of urgency. Qing Xiao patted Old Man Wu. "Do you think that Big Brother doesn't have the ability to protect himself?" Old Man Wu stilled. Qing Xiao waved his hand. "Do not worry for Big Brother. Someone that can defeat Big Brother, hasn't been born yet." His confidence was clear from his tone. Old Man Wu still had a doubtful expression, but he accepted this. If Qing Xiao was not usually reliable, he would have cursed back in response. Qing Xiao scratched his head and said to himself, "Big Brother says that my teaching is not effective. Where is it not effective?" Old Man Wu was drawn out of his thoughts, attacked by Qing Xiao's words. "Darren says that a Xiao's teachings are not effective? No. The clan members have improved so much. It is all a Xiao's work." Old Man Wu's words were not flattery. Even the Wu clan members and the servants nodded in agreement. They knew just how great their improvement in this span of time had been. "You do not understand," Qing Xiao said without even raising his head. "If Big Brother says that it is not effective, then it is not effective. It probably is that these people do not have enough comprehension abilities, and Darren is not satisfied." Old Man Wu said. Qing Xiao's eyes lit up. "Comprehension. Yes. Since I don't know how to teach, then you can comprehend on your own. Just like me." Old Man Wu thought that Qing Xiao was going to give up on them, and was going to speak to stop him. Qing Xiao turned around with a humorous expression. "Starting from today, anyone that escapes from my hands is qualified. Come all of you together." Everyone gaped. Chapter 863. Preparations. This really was a land of death. Zhuemo couldn't help but lament as he looked at the scenery outside. The gray mountain peaks in the distance appeared endless. Many of the peaks were shrouded in gray mist. Here the world was gray, black, and white. There were no other colors. Seeing Zhuemo's interest in the distant mountains, the guard spoke up to introduce. "That is Billion Bone Peaks." Billion Bone Peaks? Zhuemo was frightened by this name. Yes, that mountain is made entirely of bone, bones everywhere, innumerable. Sometimes when it rains the bones will flow down like water. Many of the bones here were washed over from there. The guard was like a tour guide. Where did so many bones come from? Zhuemo was extremely interested. No one knows. The guard shook his head. Before, many people were interested in Billion Bone Peak, but after searching for a long time, they did not find anything. Some people dug into Billion Bone Peak to seek the source, but they never came out alive. There are many bones there. Some people are interested in bone materials, so they like to go there to harvest and gather. Guwu Shuang Darren lives there. Guwu Shuang, that skeleton that could talk. Zhuemo's mind suddenly shifted. Where are the best death energy pools? The best death energy pools. The guard thought about it. I'm not clear about that. But there is the Sea of 10,000 boiling pools. If Grandmaster is interested, you should take a look. Sea of 10,000 boiling pools. Zhuemo noted that down. This guard was skilled at talking and discussed many unique locations of the 10,000 tombs of the Netherworld. It really broadened Zhuemo's view. The 10,000 tombs of the Netherworld were unique even in the Nether realm. There was a reason why the Een tomb guards were the only ones here. Normal MO could not tolerate such thick death energy. If one did not cultivate the Een tomb guard's unique scripture, they would be corroded by the death energy here and die. Zhuemo could hear from his tone that this guard was reverent of and faithfully loyal to the Een tomb ghost lord. Zuemo felt that the way the outside world saw the Een tomb guards were not like what he saw. Soon, they reached the residence of the Ghost Lord. The Een tomb Ghost Lord's residence was simple. If he had not been told, he would not know that one of the top people in the Nether Realm was living in a very ordinary building. There were no guards outside the residence. The guard came to the door and said respectfully, "Ghost Lord Grandmaster is here. Come in." The Ghost Lord's dissonant voice came from behind the door. The door opened on its own. Zuemo walked in. The yard was also ordinary and did not have any decorations. The Ghost Lord was sitting at the center of the yard. He slowly stood up and nodded to Zuemo. That could be considered a greeting. "Grandmaster has come. Do you have any thoughts about the Shin device?" The Ghost Lord was expressionless. 2 chairs and a table of bone rose from the ground. The Ghost Lord sat in one of the bone chairs and gestured to invite Zuemo to sit down. After Zuemo sat down, 2 cups of bone appeared on the table. The cups were filled with a bloody red liquid. "Please." The Ghost Lord picked up a cup and drained it. Zuemo curiously picked up the bone cup. He smelled it. There was no strong bloody tang he had expected, but an unique fragrance. The Ghost Lord saw Zuemo's action and gave off dissonant chuckles. "This is one of the products of the 10,000 tombs of the underworld, vermilion red marrow. It looks like blood, but it is actually the milk of a stone." Zuemo drained it. When it entered his throat, he felt extremely refreshed all the way to his heart. Good stuff. Zuemo became alert. A presence slowly revolved around his flesh and blood in a comfortable manner. The Ghost Lord seemed to be in a good mood. He laughed and said, "Grandmaster likes this. I have a batch here, and will give it to Grandmaster." "Many thanks." Zuemo did not refuse. After savoring the taste, he spoke. "I have come this time for the matter of the Shin device." "Please speak," the Ghost Lord said. "The forging of a Shin device is both easy and hard. If the materials are good and the effort is there, that's about all you need. Good materials are top materials. Those that can tolerate Shin power, especially strong Shin power, they will not be low in grade. Effort, that is the engraving of Shin glyphs and seals formations, have to be paired appropriately, so that they can express the attributes of the materials and benefit the user." Zuemo said casually. "Good explanation." The Ghost Lord nodded. "Then what kind of materials does Grandmaster need?" "I'm not familiar with nether materials," Zuemo said after a moment. "What kind of materials can Ghost Lord not destroy with your Shin power?" The Ghost Lord stilled. He tilted his head to think and said, "Grandmaster, please wait." Then he disappeared. Zuemo was not in a panic when the other did not appear for a long time. The Ghost Master appeared an hour later. Clack, clack, clack. Some materials fell to the ground. The Ghost Lord said, "My Shin power cannot destroy these materials." Zuemo first picked up a bone. This looked to be the femur of a human, but it was in unique dark gold as though it was carved from metal. When it entered his hand, Zuemo suddenly felt a feeling of familiarity. Faint warmth came from the bone. "Could you give this bone to me? I can trade for this with other things." Zuemo lifted his head and said. The Ghost Lord was slightly surprised when he heard this, but he shook his head and said, "There is no need to trade. I will give it to Grandmaster." Zuemo changed expression. He didn't believe the Ghost Master could not see the extraordinary nature of this bone. He hadn't expected the other to be so generous to give it to him. Zuemo smiled. "Then I will accept it." He had no more intentions of skimping. He decided to forge a good Shin device for the Ghost Lord. Zuemo had a lot of materials to work with as he had the assets. He put the dark gold bone into his ring. Zuemo started to inspect the other materials. A pale skull. The empty eye sockets seemed bottomless. When Zuemo looked, he felt his body being pulled in. He was alarmed and he immediately woke up. He stood motionlessly where he was. This skull was slightly strange. The 2 balls of mist in the empty eye sockets were deep and serene. Without even looking, Zuemo knew that this was a top-tier material. Even with his god-level cultivation, he had been pulled in. The illusory ability of the skull was incomprehensible. Zuemo put down the skull and reached his hand to another material. This was a black stone. It looked ordinary, but when Zuomo held it, he was not able to move it. He tried again. The stone still remained motionless. This rock is 30,000 caddies heavy. I accidentally obtained it, the Ghost Lord said woodenly. Zuomo was slightly shocked. This stone the size of his hand was 30,000 caddies heavy. No wonder he could not pick it up. While Zuomo's cultivation was god level, his body had not recovered and he could not lift such a heavy stone. The third material was a gray piece of wood. The wood was covered in burnt marks. The wood was extremely light and seemed like nothing when held in his hands. What surprised Zuomo the most was that this stone had a clear wasteland presence. Zuomo had ancient records and he guessed that this was the gray feather wood, one of the shun woods of the world. The Ghost Lord's shun power naturally would not be able to destroy it. Zuomo passed the gray feather wood to the Ghost Lord and said, "Ghost Lord, please channel shun power." The Ghost Lord did not waste words. He picked up the gray feather wood and channeled shun power. A dark, cold and vicious presence immediately covered the yard. Zuomo's expression was calm and unaffected as he quickly analyzed in his mind. Moments later he nodded and said, "That's good." The Ghost Lord would never think that in such a short span of time, Zuomo had completely analyzed his shun power. Zuomo's god-level cultivation caused his ability to analyze to reach a terrifying level. While the Ghost Lord had just demonstrated his shun power, it was more than enough for Zuomo. "This stone is not suited for you. The gray feather wood and this skull can be used, but other materials are also needed," Zuomo said in a professional tone of voice. He was not tricking the other. In terms of forging shun devices, there was no one more professional than him. Gray feather wood. The Ghost Lord raised the gray piece of wood in his hand. "Yes," Zuomo introduced. "This is a very rare kind of shun wood. It is as light as a feather. The ancient tribes frequently used them to make shun arrows. It is rare to see such a big piece of gray feather wood. Grandmaster is knowledgeable." The Ghost Lord continued to speak in his dissonant voice. "What other materials are needed? Grandmaster can make a list." Zuomo shook his head. "I'm not familiar with nether materials. It would be better if you have someone take me to the storehouses. After I examine them, I will know if they can be used or not." "All right." The Ghost Master treasured words like gold. The guard that had guided Zuomo here was summoned, and he stood solemnly next to the Ghost Lord. "Take Grandmaster to the material storehouses. Do whatever he tells you," the Ghost Lord said. "Yes," the guard acknowledged. Zuomo suddenly said, "I want to go see the sea of 10,000 boiling pools, and pick some good death energy pools." The Ghost Lord nodded. "All right." Turning his face he said to the guard, "You will be in charge of this as well." "Yes," the guard hurriedly responded. "This is the storehouse." The guards looked tiny as he stood in front of the mountains of materials. "What is in this storehouse are materials that are pretty good." The manager of the storehouse stood respectfully by the side. The guard mimicked the tone of the Ghost Lord as he ordered the manage. "Grandmaster is picking materials here. Do whatever he tells you." "Yes," the manager hurriedly said. "This lowly one will do whatever Grandmaster says." Zuomo saw this and couldn't help but grin. There were tens of thousands of materials in the storehouse, piled up in mountains one after another. Zuomo seemed to only stroll past these little mountains. Occasionally, one or two materials would float out of the little mountains and float behind Zuomo. In about 2 hours, Zuomo had walked through the entire storehouse. There were hundreds of kinds of materials floating behind him. He stopped and called the storehouse manager. "Come over here and identify these materials." The storehouse manager was extremely familiar with the materials. He quickly identified all the materials that Zuomo had picked. Zuomo then made a list noting down the materials he wanted. When Zuomo identified one, the storehouse manager would nod. Yet when Zuomo came to the final material, the storehouse manager's expression became conflicted. Noticing the other's expression, Zuomo asked, "Not enough?" "This one does not dare to lie to Darren. There is not enough in stock. This is very valuable, and we only won 1/10 of the amount," the storehouse manager sobbed. The guard's face darkened. He went over to look. When he saw the words crystal bone, he didn't speak. When he saw the number behind it, he continued to be silent. Zuemo was slightly puzzled. He beckoned with his hand and a bone flew in front of him. If you forge this a bit, isn't this crystal bone? The guard and the storehouse manager seemed to be struck by lightning as they were stunned where they stood. Chapter 864. Refining the shin bone. The storehouse manager stammered out. This can be forged into crystal bone? Yes. Zuemo saw the expressions of the two and knew that they definitely did not know of this. He asked, "What is this called?" "White bone." The storehouse manager hurriedly replied. His eyes were locked onto Zuemo. "All right, white bone," Zuemo responded and then patiently explained. "This white bone is not very different from crystal bone. If one refines it, white bone can be refined into crystal bone." "How do you refine it?" When the storehouse manager said this, he recognized it was appropriate. He said uncertainty. This lowly one had overstepped. Zuemo did not care. For him, concealing something like this was of no meaning. The Ghost Lord was good to him, and Zuemo was willing to teach to pay him back. First use fire to refine the impurities, and then put it into the death energy pools for about 3 days. That should do it, Zuemo said. So simple. The storehouse manager unconsciously asked. The guard's eyes glared. You dare to doubt Grandmaster? The storehouse manager's head shrank back in fright. Zuemo smiled unconcerned. Simple? Not so simple. Just refining away the impurities is not easy. The more the impurities are forged away, the better the quality of the crystal bones. Then Zuemo said to the storehouse manager, "All right, I've told you how to forge the crystal bone. Go prepare these materials." Yes. The storehouse manager decided to believe it for now. He decided to immediately get people to test this out. In the 10,000 tombs of the underworld, the white bones were one of the most worthless materials as they were everywhere. The great majority of what washed down Billion Bone Peak was white bone. The crystal bones were at least 3 levels above white bone, and their production was rare. The difference in value between the two was in the thousands. If Grandmaster was right, then this definitely was a path to getting rich. If the storehouses were filled with crystal bones, the Ghost Lord Darren would reward him. The storehouse manager was filled with motivation. The guard suppressed his shock and asked Zuemo respectfully, "Grandmaster, where do we go next? Should we go to the Sea of 10,000 Boiling Pools?" Zuemo thought for a moment. "Let's return first. It is not early and we will find another time to go to the Sea of 10,000 Boiling Pools." Yes, the guard hurriedly said. All of Zuemo's attention was focused on the bone in his ring. Having returned to his residence, Zuemo caressed the dark gold bone in his hand. This bone was of a fine quality and heavy as though it was made from metal. Patterns were packed onto the surface of the one, and it seemed to have some beauty. If other people touched this bone, they would only feel coldness. Only when Zuemo touched it would a feeling of warmth come. Zuemo was sure now that this was a leg bone that a totem warrior of the Sun tribe had left. The totem warriors of that era were some of the strongest existences. The bones that they left behind were also one of the top materials. In the time where totem warriors had been strongest, almost every totem warrior had been god level. Their bodies were at the peak of what could be reached, their blood, bones, and sinew all reaching a shocking level. Zuemo thought of Land's black jade bones that were refined to an almost perfect level. The packed patterns on the bone was the Sun Shin glyph. It could be seen from how the other had refined the Sun Shin glyph onto the bone how powerful this Sun tribe totem warrior had been. Even if Zuemo recovered to his strongest state, he could not reach such a level. That era was one that people yearned for. Zuemo lamented. After tens of thousands of years, they finally returned to the era of Shin power. But there was still a great distance between them and the peak of the ancient era. Shaking his head, Zuemo threw his stray thoughts to the back of his mind, and put all of his attention on this dark gold bone. For other people, this might just be a top-tier material, but him, it wasn't just that. A thread of sunshine fire wrapped around the dark gold femur. Zuomo's expression was serious. The shun glyph on the surface of the dark gold femur gradually became brighter. The bone was like a heated metal that flashed with a scorching red light. Zuomo's hands moved and the sunshine fire moved as well. The sunshine glyph on the surface of the bone dimmed, but because the femur was bright, the shun glyph contrasted even more. Zuomo's right hand rose slightly. The sunshine glyph that covered the bone was lifted like it was a net that covered the bone. Zuomo's eyes became bright. His presence became even stronger. The shun glyphs on the ground and walls released gentle light that hid Zuomo's presence and stopped it from spreading outside. The presence of a god level would be too astounding. If it leaked, it would attract other people. The sunshine fire climbed onto the shun glyph on the bone. Under Zuomo's control, the shun glyph slowly was pulled away from the bone. Soon, Zuomo's forehead was covered in a fine layer of sweat. The bone covered in the fire trembled, as though it was fighting to break free. It had experienced tens of thousands of years, and it had some intelligence. Yet it also had absorbed all kinds of power through these tens of thousands of years. The heterogeneous power was not of benefit to Zuomo, and was damaging like a toxin. Zuomo tried to use the sunshine fire to refine away these impurities, but the sunshine glyph layer on top of the bone blocked the sunshine fire. If he could not break through the sunshine glyph, he could not purify the bone. Suddenly, Zuomo's body shook. Zuomo refined this droplet of golden liquid from the femur. Pure essence and the unique sun presence it had was magnetically attractive to the burning sun flows. The streams of burning sun flow gathered from all directions and continued to flow into the golden liquid. The faint golden liquid quickly became covered in red threads. Soon, those red threads dissolved in the golden liquid. The faint gold liquid became a solid gold with a tinge of red. Having relieved himself of the continuous damage caused by burning sun flows, Zuomo's entire body felt light, relieved of a burden and relaxed. This red-tinged golden drop of liquid spun rapidly. A ball of flame rose from its surface, and it was about to burrow into Zuomo's flesh. Zuomo's eyes lit up, and he opened his mouth to suck in. The sunshine glyph that floated in front of him entered his mouth. The sunshine glyph that entered his body flew towards the burning golden liquid. The flames on the surface of the golden liquid did not affect the shun glyph at all. The sunshine glyph wrapped around the golden liquid. The flames on the surface of the golden liquid dimmed. A red-tinged golden bead floated inside Zuomo's body. The golden bead was covered in complex patterns. Only at this time did Zuomo completely relax. He had an expression of joy. Just as he had thought, Zuomo was full of respect towards that unknown Sun Tribe totem warrior. So powerful. While Zuomo didn't have a large amount of burning sun flows left in his body, but the shun glyph from the femur bone was able to seal these burning sun flows. The power of this sun totem warrior before death was terrifying. Zuomo stood up. He felt as light as a feather. 10 years. 10 whole years. A feeling of lightness that had been gone for a long time made him feel so joyous he wanted to howl into the sky. Without the damage done by the burning sun flows, and with the nourishment from the nether ghost Een Heavywood, Zuomo could repair his body and recover his shun power in an even shorter amount of time. There was nothing that could make him even more excited and happy. If his power was recovered, he would be able to return to Emo Cloud Sea. He would be able to awaken everyone. He would be able to save Pu Yao and Wei. He would succeed. Zuomo balled his fists. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.